don't see the reason why. I mean, you're comfortable, right? But the thing is, to do certain jobs, there are certain requirements. You can't work in certain organizations without things like ISO certification, you know. And for you to get ISO certification, there are minimum requirements in terms of staff strength, the type of softwares you use, or things like that. But and so this particular series, like I said, is a foundation step, and that is why the speakers that are here were carefully selected because of the experience they are going to actually um, explain or illustrate or imbibe into us, if that's the word I should use. I'm talking about Mrs. Nwamaka Okoye. She's a titan, a CEO. We have Mr. Michael Awanowo, who is also a CEO and a titan. And then, uh, not because it's not like he's my favorite, because to be honest, I just met him today for the first time. But we have Mr. Byron Chukudi. He's not in the interior design space like the first two speakers that we had that I just mentioned. He's more of a business strategist. It's very funny how creatives, we're taught to be very passionate about what we do, present very well, and the business side of things we're not really taught in school. We learn it on the go. Some are very conscious. They actually go to business school to actually, um, get the knowledge that is required. And that is why I'm pretty sure you will notice from their presentations, that's the first two speakers. That's literally why they stand out, to be honest. I believe I'm not mistaken. But Mr. Byron, like I said, is not in the creative industry, but it's like a coach, you know. He will tell you things from in a very raw perspective. It might not be, it won't bend to your emotions. It will tell you things as they are, black and white, you know. And so you now need to find a balance, because the the business of design is very different from other types of businesses, you know. Sometimes you need inspiration to actually, execute certain projects. And then sometimes you need to duplicate yourself. How do you duplicate yourself? Sometimes, or people tell you to delegate, in quotes. Yeah, delegate is a word that's often thrown around now. But you delegate, and then the person delegated to doesn't perform up to expectation. Then they tell you, oh, you need to train the person. And so you work hard, you train the person, and then the person eventually, I mean, if you train somebody well enough, the person should be good enough to stand on his own. So how do you, there's so many questions basically that I'm pretty sure all of you have. And I'm hoping this particular session would be able to shed more light into those topics. And without further ado, I'd just like to read through the agenda, the flow of events. I mean, guests were supposed to arrive between 9:30 and 10. It was clearly stated in the form. Apologies, CEOs were supposed to be very early. But anyways. So welcome and opening remarks by me. Then the next session would be a talk from one of our keynote speakers, Mrs. Nwamaka Okoye, and our talk will be on who are we really defining the DNA of a design practice in Nigeria. The second talk will be from Mr. Michael Awanowo from Hustle to Structure, real talk on formalizing design businesses in Nigeria. And then we'll have a fireside chat where, it's like a panel session where your questions are thrown open. And I don't think all the speakers were given the questions. So they will literally answer you in a very raw, not quoted or format. So it will be real life experiences. And then we'll now have the workshop session where our business strategist will drill into our minds and open us up. The funny thing about a CEO roundtable, let me tell you something. When I joined, in fact, I joined Idan because of an experience I had at one of their CEO roundtables. Initially I was very comfortable with where I was because of what I was doing. Yeah, I was making small cash, but then it opened me up, and I'm hoping that this particular session too encourages you to push further. And let's see how it goes. And then obviously we'll close, and then we have some light refreshments. On this note, I'd like to welcome Mrs. Linda Adeyemi to come and give the citation of our first speaker. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I know that we're all CEOs, but please smile at me if you don't mind. Good morning. Welcome once again. My name is Linda Deyemi, and well, I and Abiodun will be taking you through the event. So we hope not to take too much of your time at all, but I also try to make it engaging as much as possible. Let's not be too serious. Sorry, I'm going to be the unserious one here. Abiodun is the serious one. Okay, so welcome everybody on behalf of Idan, the Board of Trustees, the NEC, and of course the committee chairs. Just to mention that, as you can see on this roll-up banner, this event is powered by the Education Committee, which is chaired by Abiodun. So please give him a round of applause, him and his team. To be honest, the planning towards this event was very, very strategic. It was very, very, I feel like, almost, I won't say for the first time, but this is one of the most well organized, and I hope you testify to that at the end of the event, CEO event. So without much ado, because I know that that's the reason why we are here in the first place, I would like to welcome our very first speaker. But before she comes up, I want to share a background story that she might not know. So I first heard Mrs. Okoye speak in 2016. I remember it was an Idan event as well. It was Guide 2016. I was 2 years in the business because I started my business in 2014. And I just heard that. And she was like, in movies, the way that when maybe the protagonist has maybe just has one eureka moment, they'll be like, oh, that's where I felt legit. So after the event, I took down notes, everything. I went to go and look for her on Instagram because I had to let her know, how enlightening her session was. And I sent her a DM and everything. Mrs. Okoye did not reply my DM until 4 years later. But nonetheless, I was thrilled to even hear from her. She was very gracious, and I've been following her since then. I've attended many of her events. She doesn't know. And it's just such an honor to welcome you today. So, Mrs. Onwamaka Onwobi Okoye is an interior architect, author, and business leader passionate about using design and enterprise to drive purposeful change. She is the group managing director of Dulo Group, a multidisciplinary firm offering services in interior design, construction, furniture manufacturing, and property development. Her firm has executed projects for leading clients including HP, IBM, Fidelity Bank, Mitsubishi Motors, and the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. In 2025, she launched Dulo Work, a thoughtfully designed co-working hub that reflects her belief in the power of space to foster focus, comfort, and community. Onwamaka studied architecture at the University of Nigeria, pursued graduate studies in interior design at the Savannah College of Art and Design, and holds a master's in engineering technology. Amazing. She chairs the board of trustees of the Stanford Seed Transformation Network Nigeria and is a vocal advocate for ethical leadership and sustainable entrepreneurship. She is the author of Navigating the Return and writes Good Business with Onwamaka Okoye, a weekly column in Business Day Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, with a warm round of applause, please welcome Mrs. Onwamaka Okoye.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'll be controlling the slides. Oh, wow. Okay. It took me 4 years to get back to you. I apologize. Good stuff. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I would just like to say a big hello to everyone here. Thank you, Chair of the Education Committee, for considering me and doing me this honor. And I want to thank my fellow speakers for being here. And I want to give a shout out to my house accessories, Gilo Work X's, yeah, there. So they're my babies, I call. Excellent. Okay, so it's ready. So what do? I press the arrow button, the big arrow button, right, to go. All right, so, and then let me look at the time so I know when to stop. All right, as you all know, my name is Wamaka Okoye. I'm very excited to be here. And today I will be talking about who are we really? That's the topic I was given. And I'm asked to define the DNA of an interior design business in Nigeria. Pretty interesting topic, I would say. I wanted your topic. That's like, I could do that with my eyes closed, but so I thought I was going to get it. And when I saw that I had another one, well, it made me go to work because I would have just pulled some old slides out, if I had your topic. So I'll be very interested to learn and know, some more about that. So today we're going to talk about why this topic matters now. Just a second, let me put my own slideshow on here too, because I don't want to be looking back. Excellent. Okay, why does this topic matter now? And we're going to ask a key question. Are we just decorators or something more? And then we will introduce the idea of DNA. What is our unique business identity? So, why now? I think you will all agree that interior design is growing. I wish I didn't have to hold this microphone. All right. So, that interior design is growing at an unprecedented rate. The businesses there are lots of opportunities. So I came back in 2008 from the US, and I remember then I went to meet my former boss. She's still my boss now, Mrs. Shoni Barre, Interior Options. Then from when I was in school, I worked with, in her company. And then when I graduated, I worked there. And then when I came back she also asked me to, come back and join. I went to meet her and I said, hey, this is what I want to do. And she told me the market is big. I spoke to a number of people and they all told me the same thing. They were so generous. I remember a particular gentleman let me use his factory. When I had a project, I would come in and his workers would do my work, and it was at cost. But they were just so generous and they were saying, the market is so big, we don't need to be competitors. And I don't know if it's still the same now because a lot of people are in there, but there continues to be growth. However, with the opportunities that have come with the growing industry, there's also a lot of, like say, interlopers, business opportunists that come in and say, hey, we can do this. And so as a result, we are undervalued because the aspect that is truly interior design, which is more of a mental consulting aspect to it, is undervalued because many times to be profitable, you find that you may have to attach what you're doing to some other services because Nigerians typically do not pay for services. They want to pay for tangible products that they can hold. I'll tell you a story about when I was working at Interior Options. Then it was called Design Point. We had a customer that came in to do some work and he kept coming and changing things. And I was actually the lead of the design team at that point. And after we did all the drawings, spent how long on it, they came back and said they've decided to just do something else, but they would pay for the paper. I felt so insulted. I was being paid a salary, it didn't matter to me whether or not, the finances, but the work I put in, the brain work and the insult to tell me that you will pay for the paper that I used. So I remember I went then to my boss and I said, something has to change. I can't work like this. We have to charge consulting, even though we're primarily a furniture company, because then we were more of a furniture company. But if they're going to take up our time to do these things, I didn't go to school just to do stuff and someone would tell me they'll pay for paper. And she listened and we started charging consulting, which was refundable if you took the project at that time. But I'm just saying, how people value these things. They would pay so much. Someone wants to build a house that is maybe $500 million, and they don't want to pay, they want to pay you like 1 million or something for consulting and tell you they don't have money. So we're undervalued, we're underestimated. And so we must define ourselves before others define us. So, are we just decorators or are we something more? And you might say it's an obvious, this is obvious, but how are we perceived? I would say we know we're not decorators. I will tell you I'm not a decorator because I studied architecture. And after I studied architecture, I left Nigeria and went to the US to study interior design because I felt there's something that I don't know and I wanted to learn. And I was actually inspired by going to hotels when we were younger on vacation. I remember we went to Hotel Ivoire Intercontinental and I was just so blown away. And I would look at the details of the work done. And I kept trying to deconstruct all these hotels, also Echo, the Meridian at that time. And then we went out, my dad, we were able to travel outside the country to the US, other parts of the world, to Rome. And I just kept trying to deconstruct the spaces and I wanted to learn how do I put these spaces together. So, no, we know we're not just decorators, but people call you interior decor, my interior decorator. And how do we change that perception? I would say by being professional, by showing that there is something more to us, by defining who we are and showing it to people. And so, how are we going to do that? We're going to talk about a DNA metaphor, which was the last stage. I think I didn't discuss that in the first. We're going to talk about DNA metaphor. So I thought that was really brilliant, in terms of the topics. When I was in university, I remember I was going through the library. I went upstairs and I went by a woman. We exchanged eye contact. And then when I went up, I was on the first floor. I heard, "Chinekeme, is that Edi's daughter?" My mom's name is Edna. So from the top, I said yes, and I ran downstairs. And I said, "Good morning, ma." She said, "Oh." She was my mom's roommate in secondary school or university. And so just walking by me, something struck her that this must be Edna's daughter. And it was Edna's daughter. So that's the power of DNA. It's your DNA that makes up who you are. It predicts how you behave. It affects how you look. She didn't know how I behaved, but from the way I looked, she knew I must be Edna Nwobi or then Obanufe's daughter. And so the question is, what is the DNA of your organization? What are the elements that make up your organization? Do people see your work and know it must be from you? See the people that work from you and know it must be from you? Can you recognize people that are not even working for you or with you and know that this person can work for us based on what we believe and who we are and how we are? So we're going to talk about 5 essential elements that shape who we are. Okay? And so those 5 DNA strands I'm going to take be first, identity. Second, strategy and systems. The third one will be culture and leadership. And the fourth one, which I think we cannot divorce from what we're doing, is our Nigerian influence or identity. The fact that you are in Nigeria. Because being an interior designer in Nigeria is very different, very, 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 very different from being an interior designer in the Western or more, developed cultures. For example, we know the supply chain. That's what I thought about that time. Supply chain is completely different. And if you come in and parachute and think you can just do it the way everybody else is doing it, you're going to be in trouble. And then purpose. What is your purpose? And so we're going to take those strands to help us define who we are as interior designers. I need you to understand that I'm asking you questions. I'm not giving you answers. Okay? So it's for you to think and figure out who are you. So we're all going to come out of here with different answers because we're all made up of different DNA. There are commonalities, these are the components, but you know who you are, and what you want to bring to the world, what mark you want to make. Okay, so identity is the first one. Who are you and who are you not? It's an important question. I was speaking with McD earlier, and he said to me, I asked him, more about McD. Interestingly, we're both Stanford Seed alumni. So he said, we're commercial. We do commercial interior design or commercial interior architecture. And I said, okay, and construction. I said, okay, are you more of an architect or interiors? He was able to answer those questions. And if you ask me to, we're primarily commercial. right? We do workspace design mainly. And why? For us, I started out with a company called House Accessories. I wanted to do house stuff. And we kept trying to do house stuff, and offices were chasing us. So after some time, I listened to the market and said, listen, while we're busy changing, how come the thing is moving itself? Oh, okay. Is somebody, okay, sorry, I'm looking at that. Don't worry, guys, just ignore me. All right, so I found out that offices were chasing me, businesses to do their workspace design, and I was trying to do home design. I also did not like doing home design because there was also the quarrel, always the issue between the husband and the wife, and you finish and it's like if you listen to both of them, you design a Frankenstein, and so that I didn't really have the patience for that. And for me, my business, my design identity is so important to me. And so I feel when I design something I'm not comfortable with, I excuse my use of the word, but I feel like I'm prostituting my skill. That's the only word I can use, because that means I'm just exchanging it for money without the soul of what is invested and involved in it. And for me, it is a spiritual thing. It's something that I believe it's, what I ask myself, what body of work do you want to leave behind? And you need to ask yourself, so who are you and who are you not? Define that. What defines your aesthetic niche and your voice? Do you have a design philosophy? Do you? Literally. I do. So mine is the absence of superfluity. Everything that is extraneous, you take it out. The design should be clean, it should be functional, but there should be elements of soul in it. You should know a human being, there should be character in it. And I think it is something that Idan needs to work on, like a session where we craft our design philosophy. It was a class that I took when I was in interior design school, and it began to guide me so that when you see my work, it's not a style, it's a way of thinking. And then, are you a specialist versus a generalist? Do you do design only, or do you do design build? These are questions that you have to ask yourself. Now, for us, this is what we believe. Like, this is the ethos of Dulo, formerly known as House Accessories, that mundane things can and should be beautiful, useful, and priced right. Design is problem solving with an aesthetic consciousness. And then things made in Nigeria should be of the highest international standards. And then constant innovation is a fuel of growth. And it is possible to do the right thing and succeed in Nigeria. So anybody who comes to work for us from early on understands that this is what we believe. And we put it out there for our customers to also see. So you need to know what your identity is, first as a leader, then secondly as a firm. What are you bringing to the table? And what are your people going to rally around to understand, to show to the world, to give to the world? That way, when things come up that are not what you are, you know it is not what you are. The second thing would be strategy and systems. Now I'm delving into somebody's talk. Do you have clear processes? I can't do without it. Because I'm very passionate about it. Anybody that knows me knows I'm very process-oriented. So do you have clear processes? Do you have a client journey, briefing, billing, follow-up? Do you have systems which will now enable you to scale? Being the most brilliant designer because everybody told you you're such a good designer, it's not going to help you scale. You'll run yourself ragged. And then even when you are falling off, a client is calling you and you're so anxious because people are dropping the ball. They're dropping the ball because you're the only one who knows how to do what you do. And it may make you feel really wonderful, but as you get older, you're going to burn out. You can't take a vacation, you can't do anything because you're not able to take what you know and codify it in a way that other people can use it and work with it. And so this must make up part of the DNA of your firm, your organization. You must know who you are and you must erect strategy and systems. So this is an example of this is one step in our systems. There are like 7 of these. So for every aspect, it's not very clear, but there's the input and there's the output. There's a timeline, And then there is the bits of what you do. You review, for example, review clients' brief. This is like stage 2 of our design sales. Then does a project require measurements? Does it require design layout? If it does, take measurements. You know, just codify and sit down and think about what you do and write it in steps that are replicable, you know, so that people that come after you can do the work, or you can delegate. Because if you don't give sufficient guidance, you cannot delegate work. People have to understand what the expected outcome is. So there's expected input, there's timeline, and there's an outcome. All right, so this is really critical. I'm not going to go more into that because that is his part. Okay, so now this is an example of something that we did. I think it's a bit unusual. I don't know if other people do this. In 2012, we sat down and decided, after a bad project, we said, you know what? Let us have project selection criteria. We are going to decide if we're going to work with clients or we won't. And it's not because we had all the money in the world, but just because we wanted to define how we're going to use our time and what we want to present to the world. And to do that, then we had to decide what we would not do. So we said, timeline. Is it feasible? Do we have the resources to actually execute this project? If we pass those two, then budgets. At that time, we said, any client that brings something that is a side project under 10 million, we're not going to touch it. Right? That was in 2012. Then client fit, very important. Asking clients for images they like. Why, assess their style. And they're mean. Like, some people are so mean to you. They might be nice to you, but they're mean to your workers, to your staff. Like, I think it was 3 years ago, we gave a client back their money because, they were really mean, really, really mean. And they were very abusive to my team, the people on my team. And I could see that we're not going to finish this project on a good note. We could not win. It was clear. And after several, sort of warnings, not mean I'm warning you, but trying to engage, we realized that it wasn't a good fit. So we refunded their money and moved on. Then strategic value. Is it a project that, that would take you further? There's some projects that people call me, like in my village, there's the richest guy in my village wanted me to design his house, and I went to visit him. And when I saw the house, I saw this gold filigree table, I ran, and my dad has this joke where he says, oh, the richest man in the village invited me, and I didn't answer. So he brought a team of people from China to do the work. And I asked my dad, so how does the work look? He said, it looks like a team of people from China designed it. But you understand what I mean. It's not just about money. You're sewing something. And then location. Okay, is it a good location? And then from those things, we do a risk assessment. But I'm just giving an example of, how we're using strategy and systems, even locked into defining who we are. Okay, so then culture and leadership. How do you lead your team and engage your clients? Your values shape your brand, whether overtly or not, right? It shapes what your brand is. It's not about what you put on your walls. It's not about what you say that you are. It's how your actions, your actions show what your values really are. And it will determine who you attract, both with clients and your staff. And then trust, excellence, and empathy. Are they visible in what you do? This is something that we kind of, we take some of these things for granted. But it's really critical because our business is service-oriented. And you need people that will work with you. The people working with you have to believe in what you're doing. They have to believe in where you are going. And they have to trust you and know that you're going to take them there. So you have to ask yourself these questions. How do I lead? How do I engage? And are these things visible in what I do? Okay. So I'll give you an example. So we have in our values, internal values, how we behave, passion. But we don't just use the word passion. You know how you say integrity, this and that. You describe it. We stand strongly for what we believe and pursue our goals with intensity. We're serious about converting all mundane, ugly spaces to beautiful, functional ones, sometimes too serious. Intelligence. We continually pursue knowledge and its resultant application with zeal. We believe all actions should be performed intelligently. We believe in working smart first, then working hard. I don't need to read the whole thing. You can see them up there. But I'm trying to explain to you how we define our ethos. And it's something that everybody that is with you should understand, and you should be able to hire and fire based on that. If someone doesn't meet your core values, then they really probably shouldn't be working with you. Okay? The last one we added was not there before, humility. I realized after some time that if someone is not humble and teachable, it's kind of hard for us to work with them. So we maintain an accurate perception of ourselves and our ability, and honor others, remaining teachable. So define the DNA, what you want to be like, who you want to be. Then the Nigerian influence. Our work is shaped by our culture, our climate, infrastructure, whether we like it or not. You do not have a catalog of materials. You have to go and source things. And to give the most value, you must consistently source. You must know where things are. Yes, maybe you're Tush, you are in Ikoyi, but you have to have contact with the people in Alaba market. You have to have contact with people in Oshodi, Mushi. I remember when I took these ladies to Mushi the first time, right? Were you with her then? No, it was Rennie and Bilkis. I was like, let's go. So we went to Mushi, we parked the car somewhere, and started walking through the different shops, the fabrics, the different things. Yes, you bring stuff in as well. But the truth is, you need to be dynamic, and you need to have a vast array of things. And then you should try to show your place. Like when people come into your space, I usually say the only reason why people should know it's Nigerian is because of the burglary proof, but I meant that in terms of quality. But it's not just quality. Now, on the other hand, people should know you're in Nigeria. There should be something, elements of touch. I think Tola Kerile does a very good job of that, infusing our culture in. So you might want to bring in some materials. You might want to bring in other things that show a sense of place, because that's part of your identity. So whilst you're looking at things globally, you want to balance it also with authentic Nigerian expression. Okay, now purpose. Why are you doing this? And you have to understand why you're doing what you do. Why? Why? Ask yourself that question. I started because I wanted to be an artist, and my dad said it's not going to work, right? And I was, yeah, true. And I was intelligent enough. I went and studied architecture. But as we did architecture and I deconstructed things more and more, I realized that I was more interested in, just putting things together. I think I like to have control over outcomes. And an interior design space is so powerful. Just like we forced all of you to sit the way you're sitting right now. And we can affect your mood. There's so many things we can do just with interior design. You come into a cathedral, and just because of the volume and the light, nobody tells you to keep quiet. You will not be shouting there. Can you see? So for me, I like to be able to see people live in the spaces. That's part of why I stopped doing residential. I've gone back to it. There was a client, I finished doing her work after how many years I've been working for her. And when I went back, she has rearranged everything. And she kept telling me, just do it, make it fine. Amaka, make it fine. And after making it fine, she rearranged it. And I said, what am I doing? That means I'm not succeeding in what I'm doing. You have to understand who you're working with or for. So why are you doing what you're doing? And that purpose will give you clarity. If it's just to make money, that's still okay. But then you now know you're going for the most expensive, the highest bidder. If it is to leave a body of work, that's okay. If it's to show Nigerian culture, that's okay. But what is it? So you can attract people that are like you, so they can work together towards a common purpose. So for us, it is changing the way people live, work, and learn by design, which means that there has to be something different, where we don't do things the same way everybody does things. We want to bring a refinement, we want to bring improvement, so we're always trying new things out. And that's why, for example, we have dual work now, because that's affecting how people work, right? And we're going to go into learning as well, or teaching as time goes along. But that is why we exist. This is what we're trying to achieve. And so we may change our strategy, change different things, but this remains constant, over time. And it has to be something that is easy to keep, even if you change your expression, it remains the same for the most part. Now, I would like you to, this is recommended reading for you. all those things I brought out for you, this is where I got it from. I read it in 2012. And so I took my management team through that a session on, with the excerpts of this. It tells you there are 6 questions you must answer to create a playbook. Why do we exist? How do we behave? So instead of saying core values, you say, how do we behave? How will we succeed? That is, what is your strategy? And then what is most important right now over the next 3 months? That's your defining objectives. So I read this book. I was so blown away that I, taught it to my team. And then we came up with a playbook. And it has lasted with us over time. It talks about how instead of saying, the financial health, you look at the organizational health of your business. That is a better way to measure the success of your business. So I would recommend that you read this. Okay. So, did I go past one slide? Okay, I didn't know it didn't. How do I go back? Oh, I'm almost done. Okay, so in closing, the 5 strands define your business. Can we remember what it is? What's the first one? Identity. The second one? Sorry? Strategy and systems. What's the third one? Culture and leadership. What's the fourth one? Your Nigerian influence, or the influence of wherever it is that you are. Whatever you identify as. If you identify as American, that's fine. And the fifth one, what is your purpose? Your identity is your compass. It informs everything else. Don't build blindly. Build with intention. And so, in closing, I would like to leave you with this call to action. What 5 words define your business today? What 5 words do you want in 5 years? The future of our profession depends on clarity, structure, and purpose. So, let's keep building a stronger community together. Follow me on Instagram. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Please follow her on Instagram. I'm sure she will respond to your DM faster. Thank you so much, madam. Please, once again, a round of applause for her. You can see that, she's everything that we say she is. And she's everything that she says she is. That was just, very, on point, literally. So, very quickly, we need to go into the next speaker session. But before we get there, just, trying to connect everything that we've learned, I want to just throw a question out to everybody and ask. I want to ask a would you rather question. So, or rather, what would you rather do? So, and I got that inspiration from what you shared, Abiodun, at the beginning, that you said you read something. And I think I wrote it down. It said, do you want to stay independent or stay afloat? I think that was it. But I'm going to rephrase the question. I want to ask, and I'm going to go around. So think about it. Would you rather, have a very profitable design business? Or would you rather maybe win the award for the most creative design ever? Yes. There are different things. And your business is, you're making sales, you're making money. But there's also like, your design is like the best, but you're not necessarily making money, but they know you as designer Agba, So I'm going around though. Think about it. Would you rather have a profitable design business, or do you want to win the award for best designer ever? I like the way you're laughing at my jokes. That means I'm funny. Hello, please just say your name and answer the question.
Mma Bamuche of Joylin Studios. I would rather have a profitable business than to have I don't care what the what's it called, the award is, the best interior designer in the whole. I don't care. I want a profitable, successful interior design firm. Yeah.
Please put your hands together for her. Thank you. Okay, now I want somebody. Will anybody choose the other? I'd just like to hear your thoughts. Yes. Please just share your name and
My name is Bolanle from iDesign. For me, I think I would rather win the award, because what it does is that the award will bring you the money. It would go ahead of you and speak your works. People would recommend your works. That would bring you the money.
that's one way to look at it. So we are hoping, please put your hands together for her. Come on. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. So I hope that we took down everything that she said, and I'm sure that our next speaker is going to also blow our minds. I'm very sure about that. So, very quickly, I'll just read his bio. Michael Awonawo is a workplace design expert and business leader, passionate about transforming how people experience work. As founder and CEO of McD, a leading design and construction company, he's redefining Africa's workplaces through strategy, creativity, and innovation. Under his leadership, McD has become a trusted partner to some of Africa's most prominent brands: MTN, PwC, NLNG, UAC, Nigeria, PiggyVest, and more, delivering environments that enhance performance, inspire culture, and drive results. With over a decade of experience, Michael has researched and applied the intersection between workplace design and human productivity, using design as a lever for business transformation. He's an alumnus of the prestigious Stanford Seed Transformation Program, where he deepened his expertise in innovation, customer strategy, and scaling for impact. The experience not only expanded his entrepreneurial toolkit, but connected him with a dynamic network of African change makers. Beyond McD, Michael is committed to education and mentorship, obviously, because he's here. He regularly shares insights with young professionals, students, and creative entrepreneurs, shaping the next generation of African leaders in design and business. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Michael Awonawo.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Morning. All protocol duly observed. It's a real pleasure to be here. I find it's a real honor for me. I'm not happy that I'm going after Mrs. Nwamaka, because I think she more or less spoke about half of what I'm going to speak on. But I'll try and share from my experiences. So yeah, I'm speaking on from also, like 25 minutes, right? Let me just time myself. Okay, yeah. So I'll be speaking on from also to structure. To give a bit of caveat, I'm a very open person. So sometimes I'll put out numbers that typically people won't share. But it's also because more people I speak with are younger people. And sometimes you want to remind them that, yeah, it does work and there's a future in the work we're doing. So I'll try my best to put a lead on it. So real talk on formalizing design businesses in Nigeria. We have to do this. Okay. So I believe everyone has gone through this phase in their business. Day one. I used to joke with people that it's very easy to set up a business. You just register a business name. And then the real work, which is what happened to me. I think it was May 1st, 2017. I said, yes, my business is established. What next? Where do clients come from? And when clients started to come in, you realize you're the one doing everything. Your CEO, your procurement, your marketing, your designer, your customers, you're doing everything. And you're there day to day with your clients. And I dare say that's where you get your first mover's advantage, because this is where you can do things that bigger businesses will not do. So I'll share an experience. Our first client was Softcom. It was supposed to be a small project. And so they built the clients, when they saw our profile, because there's this paradox, I'm sure we're all aware. Nobody will give you money to build anything if you've not built something. So his first question was, what have you built? And I said, I've not built anything. And he said, no problem. But because I'm a young person, let me test this guy. I remember, and this ties back to the story on consulting, where I sent my invoice for 6 point something million. That's what I said for design. I was still on the bus back home when he called me and said, so I saw your invoice. I'll pay you 1 million. I'm like, no, sir. The delicate aspect of what he said, you take it or you leave it. And 1 million was a lot of money for me then. So I took it. But the luxury I had, because I was a young person, I mean, I had like 2 staff that I was paying. I could be there for every meeting. It was a hustler mindset. And so where these guys are because they were a startup. Startups don't work like your typical, sometimes they prefer work meetings after work hours. And so where those other bigger companies, the furniture companies, they could not have those meetings. I could be available to 12 midnight. What am I doing my time? And so that's where that's where we grew. And it got to the point where they then got so used to us. And so I'm saying this, if you're still young, you're still small, that's an advantage. They got so used to us that it couldn't make sense for them when it was time to build. And then he came to me and said, Michael, I want you to build my office. I told him no, straight up. Because the budget was, I think, 70 million. From 1 million to 70 million. I've not done this before. If I mess this up, I'm in trouble. And he said, no. Like, I know you will get it done. I've seen that you're diligent. I slept in a cell because of the project. Story for another day. I don't have enough time to go through that. But so that was his mindset. And I said, no problem, we'll do it. And we did it. It was a big project for us. It was Softcom office. And he opened doors for us. But one thing I realized, and one thing I gained in that moment, which I think is, so I studied architecture, and I think it's a mistake many of us make. We learn from other architects, or interior designers learn from other designers. Because my first client was Softcom, I got to sit in rooms where they spoke about their business. But they benchmarked themselves against bigger businesses. So where people are thinking, how do I make my next 1 million? These guys are thinking, how do we make billions of naira? So it changed my perspective on thinking about business entirely. So when I was thinking of growing my business, I wasn't thinking of growing an interior design business. I was thinking of growing a business, a global business. And so things had to grow. I mean, we did a website. We had one project. We had plenty of renders. Because when we did, and so I can't go through my slides because it just seems like I'm copying what she's saying. No problem. Because this same project, when we delivered it, it was then the talk of the town for tech companies. Everyone wanted to work at Softcom. Everyone wanted to, and what was the brief? The brief we all know how a brief comes. 100 workstations, 2 private offices, this thing, 4 meeting rooms. But because I had nothing to do, I was in the office just there, and they started to gist. Because the reality is, when your clients spend money, there are decisions that have come before the brief comes up. You most times are not privy to those conversations. So where your brief starts is where the real brief has ended. So if a client, for example, tells you, I want my bed hanging from the roof, to you, it doesn't make any sense. I'm a designer. Your bed should be on the floor. What if there's a snake in his house? Do you understand? So that's just a very weird analogy. Yeah. But their mindset was, we're a company, we do work for the biggest brands in West Africa, but we're a tech startup. And the idea of tech startup is they are upcoming. So we needed I wish I had the picture of the office. We needed an office that made us look like an established brand. That was the real brief. So for them, they were going to spend, I think, 150 million in 2017 on an office as a tech startup. What was the purpose? So when they bring the likes of your MTN, your Forte Oil, they see them as one of a kind. That was the real brief. Not 100 workstations, not all of that. And so it changed my mindset on how to deal with our clients. And so when we finished Softcom, because I need to move fast, when we did the Softcom project, like I said, we did a website. I think I took 300K and gave someone to design a website. They introduced us to UAC. And what's the first thing people do when you tell them about your work? They Google you. But because it's a business like UAC, they're not going to Instagram. They're going to your website. I had a website, only one project, but I had a website. And that's how UAC knew, oh, this person is a business. So I said all of that to say this. Hustling is good, but a business, there's a way a business should look. There's a way a business should act. You can say it's semantics, but it's the reality of the world we live in. You won't go on Instagram to make a purchase of 10 million. Why would a business do that to you then? Do you understand? If you're going to sell a house and if you're going to buy a house and they told you it's 100 million, but you have to pay on Instagram, we'll send you the link. You won't do that. So why would a client do the same? So, which then takes me to some of the, some of the things that made me realize we had to step up ASAP. Because after Softcom, we started to have smaller projects, Piggyvest, and the likes. And because I was CEO, and as a designer, you enjoy your work. You like what you do. You like the feeling. That's where the question about, I would not have, if you had asked me then, I would have taken the award. Yeah. Now, miss me with that. But what did that look like then? It means we missed invoices. We didn't send invoices at the due time. Sometimes the clients will call and say, have I paid you? And I know you haven't paid. Why haven't you sent your invoice? I like what I'm doing. Sometimes you don't get, maybe a client makes feedback and they give it to you because you are doing 10,000 things. You miss out on it. Or you're burnt out. There was a period where I had to take a break because I was depressed. Or then your delivery becomes inconsistent. I don't know how it works. There's some vendors we've worked with last year that can't do the same thing this year. I don't know what is happening to our ecosystem. But then, because you can't oversee them, and then staff knowledge, this is a big issue. You train a staff, you train them, you invest in them, you give them courses, and then they use that information to fill their CV for the next job. So these are some of the challenges we had at the beginning. And it's normal because you're running, what's the word? You're a hustler. Yeah? It's normal because you're a hustler. And then when was the wake-up call for us? We worked on the project. Now, thankfully, I think a year after, we had like 5 staff. We worked on the project, and we started to get a lot of bids. When you first start, every brief is a potential client. So all clients are the same. So you do everything. And that's fine, because that's how it's supposed to be. But at some point, like Mrs. Uwamaka mentioned, you start to segment your clients. You start to arrange them based on, oh, if I work for this client, the money is not good, but the reputation boost I'll get from this is a lot. But we had the clients where, we had a project where it's not on our website. I'll deny we did it today because I didn't have oversight. Michael was excellent. Michael's staff, not so much. So I was stretched. I was burnt out. I was a hustler. Yeah, I was a big hustler. Working on UAC. I used to jokingly say it then. UAC, we're doing the last 2 floors. The 12th floor is the roof. I didn't go to the roof because I couldn't vouch that I would not jump. That's how bad it was. And so, then I had to figure out that no, something needs to change. We're getting a lot of opportunities as a business, but we also need to position ourselves as a business. And luckily for me, I was doing work for businesses, not interior designers. And so I listened more in their meetings. I listened more to what they were saying when they were not speaking to us. Because your clients are experts at their problems. Why they come to you is to decipher the problems and give them possible solutions. And one thing I learned from Amazon is the user is always right. You know, they say there's this that the client's always right. That's wrong. The client's not always right, but the client is king. And so we had to figure out, if we're going to keep working for businesses, we had to position ourselves the right way. And so we decided to define structures. Let me say something. You don't gain structure by finding a big business, copying that structure, and applying it to your team. Your workflow defines your structure. So it starts from, you don't have to, if you check many offices today, there are some roles you see today that make no sense. What's Chief Evangelist Officer? But it might be particular for that business. And it's fine to do all of that. So what do we do? First, map out our processes. What do our processes look like? Not just for us, but for our clients. Because why? You want to be a business. I've said this before. Many of us, I'm sure all of us are in some way designers, and we are good at what we do. The problem is we're good at what we do to ourselves, and our clients don't understand the value we actually bring. Because running a business really is giving value or capturing value. And so what's the first thing you need to do? That's why a Gensler, for example, will do a lot of research papers. Emma Miller will do a lot of research papers. What does that do? It tells their clientele that these people they understand what the work behind the work. And so you map out your processes, not just for yourself, but for the sake of the clients you're working with. Then you start to build your team. And then you adopt systems from other businesses that work for you, and you track and improve. Tracking is very important. You can't grow what you can't measure. Many times, as business owners, because we're very busy, and there's always work, and once in a while we can go on a vacation, you think the business is growing. But at the end of the year, the profits does not align with the work that came in the year. And that's because we're not measuring the right things. And so, what did that look? Sorry. What did that look like for us? We defined our business. This is client onboarding. This is where design starts. This is where procurement starts. This is where execution starts. And this is how we close out. And we shared this information with our clients. The reason why you share these things with your clients, first off, there's something I tell my staff. If we go for any bid, our first goal is to make our competitors look incompetent. That's the first goal. And I'll explain. Whichever company or client you work with, there's a human being at the other side of that, or at the other side of the table. What's the job of the human being? To keep their job, right? To earn their salary. What does that look like? To take as little risks as possible. So if they had the budgets, they will go for the businesses that they can guarantee will not put issues on them. What is your job? To give that person peace of mind. Right? And so that's why you share this information with them. What does it tell that person? These people have their house in order. They understand what they are doing. Even if you don't understand it, it doesn't matter. Because there's the optical aspect, which is where we had a website where UAC could see, even though we had one live project. But the reality is benchmark then, the head of admin for UAC, was at the very least, if you're a business, you have a website. And so, some other things we also introduced, just for the benefits of the same way, formalizing your business. It's internal first, but it's also external. Your client onboarding checklists. You could take a brief in a conversation. So, for example, now if you reach out to MICD, there's a type form. The type form has been designed years of experience of working with our clients. So it's not just what is your brief, tell us about your project. It goes deep. What's your industry? There are questions we ask. So for example, do you currently have an office? If the answer is yes, what's the next question? Is it new or is it a remodel or a refurbishment? If they don't have an office, what's the other question? Are you currently looking for an office? Do you need assistance with doing that? We have all of that on a type form because they've not even met us yet. But it's important that they imagine from a first impression, that these people know what they're doing. And so that's where our client onboarding checklist comes in. Procurement tracker. What's a procurement tracker? It's as simple as we order this thing on this day, it's coming in 2 weeks. We all know this internally as a company. Communicate it to your clients. Why do you do all these things? It makes, like I said, it makes the life of your clients easier or your client's rep easier. So when they give that report to their board on, give an update on this project, there's no, let me quickly call these guys to find out where this is. Documentation, very important. Even your design approval process. I'm sure over the instances of, it was approved, I didn't approve it. I'm sure over that distance like that. Why, like, oh, you approved red. Red doesn't look good. Are you not the designer? Shouldn't you know that red do not work in this place? And so all things like this formalize the process. So in our case, we only work with businesses. We don't do residential. We don't do individual. If you're an individual, if you're a business as an individual, we'll very likely not work with you. Why? She'll give an example. The husband to wife example. I remember then we did a work for a client of ours. We had done work for his office, and then he said, you know what, Michael, you guys should do my home. I'm getting married soon, so I want this looking great. So he bought a home. He spent a lot of money. And then one day he calls me, Michael, where can I sell this furniture? I'm like, what do you mean sell the furniture? He's like, I want the house to be a man cave. What do you mean man cave? Apparently, he has broken up with his fiancée. Now he doesn't plan to marry for a while. The good thing is, he wasn't pushing the blame to us. But because we're not just there for the money, things like that are very hurtful. Because now he's selling all this furniture at a loss because it's coming from a hurt. Now that could have gone sideways, where we just push all the blame to us. Come and pack it, refund my money. If it was a business, it's as simple as you send me a mail. I delivered to you, you approved it. So those are just some of the reasons why we do businesses. Now, there are some people that do homes and they do it perfectly. I don't know how they do it. I don't want to know. So you need to know what your strengths are and stick to your strengths. Now, the other things you also do is talent. You are strong as the weakest link in your organization. There are times where, in the past, you see a mail from someone in the office to a client. They say, no, please retract that mail. Why is there a typo in your mail? And so what we started to do, we started to hire people and these things cost money. We started to hire people that had more experience, that had done this work we're doing. Because if you're going to grow your business, you're not going to sit in every meeting. If you sit in every meeting, that's a problem. If you plan to sit in every meeting, that's a bigger problem. You're not going to sit your goal should be to be in less meetings. In fact, your goal should be to build your business to the point where you're always on vacation. That's the extreme. So what did we do? We brought in a design lead. We brought in dedicated site managers. So on a project like ours, there's a dedicated project manager, there's a dedicated site manager. Because of the kind of clients we work with now, we work with multinationals. They're very hands-on. They're hands-on between 9 to 5. When they're 9 to 5, you can't do anything else. So what do? There's a dedicated project manager, a dedicated site manager, dedicated HSC. On a project, you could have as much as 6 to 7 dedicated staff. It is very expensive, right? Very expensive, but it gets the job done. And the biggest risk you face as an interior design business is your reputation. It's as simple as that. If your staff slaps your clients, it could as well have been you. So we started to bring in people people that were responsible for their work, people that had done this, technical designers, marketing teams. And then some other things we started to do were implement tools. What's the point of these tools? To manage scale. I'm sure our goal here, the reason why we're here in the first place as CEOs, we want to grow our businesses. There are many tools today that help you, for lack of a better word, fire some of your staff so you can make more profits, in quotes. And so some of the tools we started to use, sorry, I haven't done that. Google Sheets, Google Drive, Slacks, I'm sure some of them we use already. Our accounting softwares. In the past, the accountant had to go through multiple distance. You all know in the work we do, you're making sometimes hundreds of payments in a day. You miss 1 0, you send 10 million to a bricklayer. And now you are chasing the bricklayer up and down. And so we had to create a tool that made it easy to see all these things at a glance. And these are some of the tools we use. Figma, for example. Figma means we could display something to a client without sending a PDF. Or Slack. Every conversation stays on Slack. We can bring in external persons to a particular channel. So sometimes we have channels where we bring in a client. You're just on this channel for this project. You have feedback as fast whenever it comes. And what's the payoff now? What does it look like for us? Now we're working, so I can't legally mention most of the projects we're working on, but we're working for quite a number of multinationals. But we have more consistent delivery. To be fair, the team is a lot bigger. I mean, this year we've doubled our staff strength already, and we're just halfway in the year. The team is a lot bigger, but then there's consistent delivery. It means I can come and give this talk and not worry that something is burning somewhere. It also means we can take on larger clients. Our clients can trust us because we did ISO recently, just because one client asked for it. And I didn't participate in the process at all. So now I have a team that I can trust to do their work and do it well. We have clientele that I don't have to interact with because the team can do the work. We've gone from being hustlers to being a business. And all I just learned from were the different clients we've been working with. And so if I'm going to let's go the moral lesson, like a mini moral lesson. Learn from your clients. Learn from your clients. Learn their structure. Because part of the thing we learned in school, which is unfortunate, is as architects, you learn from other architects. But it was difficult then because very few architects were doing very well. But then there are many businesses. And so the luxury I've had is I've been able to sit in rooms with MTN, with PwC. And these people are thinking about problems that in a way are very similar to mine. Because the problems with the business, they are the same. It's talent retention, it's sales, it's marketing, it's procurement. Those are the same challenges we face. And so instead of always taking your blueprints from just interior designers, learn from your clients. What do we also have now? We have stronger margins. I'll just skip on that. I think we all understand that one. And then less founder dependence. Funny story. The name of my company is McD. My mom was let me check my time. I've exceeded the time. How many minutes do I have? 1 minute. Voila. Okay, so let me do it. Let me end with this. So what you can do next? Start with one system. Break your company down into different sections. You already have this information, but now actively break it down. It doesn't have to be per role. You might have one person doing 2 roles. Break it down: procurement, sales, sourcing. Start with one system and innovate per systems. Delegate and actually assign ownership. I remember when we worked for Softcom then used to send their staff to Dubai for training. And for the life of me, I didn't understand. Because then in a conversation, I asked him, so when they go to Dubai and come back, how many years do you tie them down? And he said, none. And I'm like, aren't you worried they should go? And his response was, the person that leaves, I'm glad they leave. And so there's the risk involved in training, and assigning ownership. It's a big risk, but you can't grow if you don't do that. Then the third one, measure, because you can't grow or scale what you can't measure. Measure everything. Measure the time it takes for you to finish a design. Measure the time it takes for a client to respond to you. For example, we know a typical project for us takes 6 months to close because they're multinationals. So no, we're not worried in the second month. We're calm. So for 2026, for example, we're already speaking to those clients now. So you need to understand how your business works, because sometimes it will look like there's no work and then there's a barrage of work. So you need to understand how that cycle, your sales cycle works. And then the other thing, don't wait to be big, to be formal or organized. Yes, I know we joke about it. You send a mail, you say we, even though it's one person. There are softwares you can use to structure your business from now. And the last thing I'll just leave us with. In our industry, great design is what people see, which sometimes can be a negative, because it's very easy to get carried away, because everyone likes what you've done. But great structure is what keeps you in business. There's no point designing the best office in Nigeria if you can't pay your staff or you can't have profits. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Awonowo. Thank you so, so much. For me, let me just share my own take home is learning from your clients. I think that was just super important. And I remember sometimes, I remember I don't say those days, but, I'll tell my husband that I want to go for an event, it's an interior designer. So he's like, isn't it your own interior designer? So go to places where other people are for you to learn some other things as well. Not to say that, we don't learn from ourselves, but it's just to emphasize the point that he's making, that it's important to also learn from people who are not, necessarily in the industry when it comes to building your business. Do you see? That's super important. But I think that to just add to that, we can also learn from people who are in our industry, who are, running profitable businesses, who are doing very well, which is why, for example, we have Mrs. Wamaka Okoye here. Okay. But on the flip side, we also have Mr. Byron Chukwudi, who we'll be hearing from very soon. I feel like his session is the meat of today's, event. I feel like I'm putting him under pressure. He's shaking his head like, don't do that to me. All right. So thank you so much once again. Please let's just put our hands together once again for Mr. Awonowo. Thank you so much. So now that we have a fuller house, can we just, look at the person beside us and just give them a compliment? Just say you're looking nice or something, Just say hello. Find out their names. Have you even said hello to them to know who they are? All right. Awesome. So very, very quickly, we're going to be having a fireside chat. Okay. A fireside chat, which is more or less like a panel session. And I love this because it's going to be interactive. We can speak with, ask our speakers questions and just, get their pulse on real issues that we are facing. I'll be moderating the session, so I have some questions, but definitely if you have any question, you can just maybe raise your hand and you can also indicate which speaker you want to direct your question to. So we've heard from Mrs. Okoye, we've heard from Mr. Awonowo. Mr. Byron will be joining us on this panel, so let me just also read his bio so that you know how to direct your questions at him, as it were. So, Mr. Byron Chukwudi is the managing partner and chief strategy officer at Arno, a strategy consulting firm advancing Africa's growth through locally driven innovation. With over a decade of experience spanning management consulting, business architecture, brand direction, and market strategy, Byron leads Arno in transforming complex changes into scalable opportunities for institutions across Africa. His expertise lies in designing holistic structures that empower businesses and governments to scale sustainably through strategic road mapping, cultural clarity, process optimization, and forward-thinking brand positioning. From Lagos to Nairobi, Accra to Toronto, or Toronto, as they say it, Byron has advised over 50 organizations across finance, real estate, public sector, healthcare, and emerging technology. Under his leadership, Arno has delivered high-impact initiatives resulting in significant cost savings, operational improvements, and brand positioning for some of Africa's fastest-growing institutions. Byron also founded the Arno Foundation, a platform dedicated to research, community development, and resource-focused initiatives that deepen Africa's self-determined progress. He is known for his deep sense of purpose, hands-on leadership style, and commitment to helping African systems thrive. At the heart of his work is a belief in design thinking, contextual intelligence, and, let me fill in the gaps, organizational growth. I'm so sorry about that, but please just put our hands together for him. He's not coming up right now. We'll all come together for the panel session. All right, so thank you. All right, so please, I'd like to welcome our speakers. Please put your hands together as they come forward. So please remember that this is a Q&A session. I have some questions, but if you also have specific questions, feel free to raise your hand. Yes, please. Okay, so CEOs, I hope we are getting something. I know that everybody might not be a CEO, but at least you are in, senior management, because maybe you are here to represent your CEO, or as the case may be. So I really hope we are getting something out of this session. Okay, all right. Thank you for the lights. So that's all right. So let me see. I'm trying to see who I want to direct my first question to. I will ask Mrs. Okoye. So my question has to do with, and it's just interesting because you touched upon that, you and Mr. Michael. So just to contextualize it more so that we can relate very well. So delegation can be tough because we're creatives. We feel like we have the blueprints in our minds, and so how do we delegate, without compromising the quality of our work or the standards of our brand, as the case may be? Yeah.
Thank you very much for that question. I think it was last year or 2 years ago, I started having a lot of issues with execution on my team. And when I noticed it was repeated, all around the organization, I realized I was the problem. When something happens consistently within your organization, you're the problem. It's leadership, it's management, it's not the people. And so I had to go back and start to figure out and learn about delegation. There are certain conditions that must be present for delegation to occur. There must be clarity of scope. Start, finish, what is the outcome? There must also be timelines, okay? Then the person must be empowered or equipped to make the decision. In other words, you might say, I want you to get me fabric. You must define, is it upholstery fabric? Is it curtain fabric? And then, do you want Nigerian fabric or you want imported fabric? Those are parameters that must be clear before you can delegate. Otherwise, it's difficult to define whether the project, the person's assignment is failed or not failed. And then you must train and empower. If you're over-prescriptive, it's hard to delegate. Well, it depends on the level of competence. So you won't have to decide the level of competence of the person you're working with. You determine that, and it determines what you will assign and how you delegate. In other words, If you want an assistant, an office assistant to do something, maybe clean the table, you say, use Mr. Sheen, use this rag, do this, do that, very detailed based on their competence. But someone who's senior or superior, you just say, look, we need this place to be kept clean. And you leave them to deal with the parts in between. So determining the competence of the person you're delegating to is actually key as well. And if they don't have that competence, you might want to train them. And if you don't match that, then you run into trouble. Another thing with delegation is making sure that you hold the person you've delegated accountable to the outcomes that you have both agreed on. I think my team knows about the issue of monkeys. Like, you come into my office, you have a problem, you're telling me that there's this problem, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, look, don't put your problem on my head. It's not my problem, it's your problem. All right, so if you bring a problem, you have to explain what the issues are, what the possible solutions are, what the pros and the cons are, and what you recommend. So they now know, they ask, when they call me, they say, I need your advice on something, I need your help with something. So many times, if you are someone that is a hero, always trying to save the day, you cannot delegate. They're coming to you for answers. You haven't set parameters clearly, and you've not delegated in a way that empowers the person. Thank you.
I love it so much. Thank you so much. And I just like the way, you let's say, turned it back on the leader, because sometimes we are just like, they're incompetent. I tell them what to do. Check yourself first of all. Okay, so I just love that. Thank you so much. And then speaking of delegation, and because I want to hear Mr. Byron's voice, I'm going to be asking you next question. So definitely, yes, we should introspect and we should be clear based on what she has said. But again, you also want to, hire competent people, and just like Michael hinted, great hires cost more. Do you see? So, and of course, training juniors can backfire if they leave. So how can we manage this as creatives, based on what you now know about our industry? Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be in this room with powerful CEOs, listening to great minds, Mrs. Wanmaker and Mr. Michael. It's a great pleasure. Beautiful question. So how do you, just for me to be sure that I got it, how do you,
train them, they leave.
Yeah.
You don't train them, you're stuck with incompetent people. Plus the fact that some of us, not everybody has been in business for 10 years or 100 years. Some of us are, we still have smaller businesses. So how do we balance? How do we hire right? Basically hiring.
Okay, so there's also this popular saying that people say that they rather go with people of character than someone that knows how to do the job very well. And I think it's very important. A person with character that is willing to follow your leadership can be trainable. Someone that you can train to get the job right. But there's a challenge there. You don't know how long it takes a person to learn, right? But that is why you have to build like a personal relationship with these people. I think people learn more by watching you do what you do best. Like Mrs. Amaka has spoken, that she said something about allowing people to make decisions themselves, not just bringing it on you. And most times they must have seen you do things a couple of times, continuously and everything. So that's what helps them like make the kind of decisions that you will make, But in terms of, to be honest, in terms of how do you not train someone in Dubai and the person runs away, I think that is more to what their vision for their lives are. Like some people have their plans. And I think as a leader, you need to be able to figure out when someone is going to stay long with you and when the person is going to move very soon, so you know what you're doing in terms of investment in that person. You need to know that not everybody's going to stay with you for the longest time. You need to know, just need to know that, then work with them part time. So I think that's it, because you can't control people's visions for their lives. Yeah, you can just do the best you can.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I love how you started when you talked about the skill versus character, balance. Because I also feel like I had a situation in my own firm, and she wanted to leave at some point. But at the time I was pregnant, and she was the most competent person. I mean, she was the most, senior person. And I remember when we were talking about it later, she didn't eventually leave at that time. She eventually still left. She was saying that I couldn't leave when you were pregnant because, that was character coming out. You see, if it's just somebody that was just there just for the money, like, I don't care if she's pregnant or she's going on maternity leave, I'm leaving. But she actually waited for 1 more year because she couldn't just leave knowing that she's literally there. So I think that that's super important. Hiring for character can be a game changer for you. Do you want to say something? Okay.
I do. So there's something I've hit on recently. Well, there are two things, right? One of them is there's this analogy that if if somebody gives you poison by mistake, what's going to be the outcome? Like you drink a cup of coffee that has poison in it, what will happen? You probably die, right? Okay. Intelligence is critical, or like, don't hire stupid people. I mean, no matter how nice they are. So it's important, that the person has a certain level of intellectual capacity. And if you don't gauge for that, people make honest mistakes. They're working really hard. And it's even unfair for you to expect them to do something that is beyond their capacity. So for certain roles, you do have to test their intellectual capacity. That's one. The second thing, which I have hit on very recently, judgment. That's my new thing now, judgment. When you hire people and you want them to make certain decisions on certain level, they must be able to exercise good judgment, and it's hard to teach that. In other words, when they have all the information that is available to them, do they arrive at good decisions? And you can teach decision making, yes, and if they're teachable, they will learn. But some people consistently exhibit poor judgment. And if they do, maybe they can work in the organization, but they cannot lead, because you cannot factor or put into process every single type of situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Judgment. Okay, so Mr. Awonowo, let me ask you this. Since I remember how you brushed about that part I talked about more margins or higher margins. Okay, so I'm coming there. So sometimes clients, push back on your fees or even your timelines, and these are things that actually happen. We know. Okay. So how do you protect your values? How do you protect your, what you stand for? Like what she mentioned, the DNA. When you have clients that are almost, always price you, or, saying they want their work in 2 weeks. I know you don't have that problem, sorry. But some people might have that problem. So yeah, how do you deal with that?
So there's and this was after the Stanford Seed program. So there's a way you categorize your clients. We have, I'll just run, we have 5 types of clients. The first type, what do we call them again? Old money. We call it, so their titles, the titles are funny. But immediately I say it, your mind will go to a type of client. The first one is old money, and that's what we call multinationals. They're very picky, they're very difficult, but they have deep pockets. And we're fine with that. The second one are unicorns. These are tech startups. They think they have money. They are very excited. You can try out new things with them. The third set are African mothers. So they price everything. These are like large businesses, your finance, administration, your insurance. They price everything. They'll pay you well, but you will work for the money. The fourth one's Aki and Popo. You remember that movie, those movies in those days. These ones, there's very little benefit to it. And the last one's fishbone. Like when a fishbone hooks you in the neck. So when we meet when clients come in, after the first call, we already gauge where this client falls. I know there's this thing where they say you can't get paid in, what do they call this thing? What's the exposure? The exposure does not pay. That's a lie. Sometimes exposure pays. So we weigh the margins. If it's a multinational, maybe we can be, flexible with our fees, because you pay us if we have them on our profile. But if it's a smaller company, I know that we need to charge you our fees, and we're strict with it. If it's a company that we know we don't want to work with, we give them one crazy upfront consulting fees, and we know how the conversation ends. So we already know what is coming based on the type of clients and our interactions with them. So I think that's one way to go about it. If you get to a client that starts to become too pricey, I've said it like, every bad client you're working with is a good client you're not working with. Yeah, they are taking your time from working with good clients. And sometimes you need to have some faith in yourself and your business that good work will come. Because we all have that project that we said, I'll just do it for the money. And midway, you're like, even the money is not worth it. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Mrs. Okoye, you are literally like the Amazon of interior design businesses. So I want to ask you, have you ever faced, or in your experience, have you ever faced the slow season where there are no projects? How did you cope financially and mentally? During those periods, because these are the issues. I don't know whether about everybody else. There are times like that.
If I lie, I have witnesses here that will call me out, because there are a number of my people here. Tons of slow seasons, not just slow seasons. After some time, I looked and I realized that I've realized there's like a cycle. I think it's every 3 years. So I looked at it. It goes like this. It comes down. It goes like this. I think it's on the 4th year. Every 4th year, something happens in Nigeria. When I looked at our, the trend, that's what I noticed. There are clients that you've had. It's very important at those times. What we do is you make sure you keep them close, keep them warm, because it's difficult to get a new client. But an old client, you don't have to go through that whole bidding process. You sit down, they bring you work. So staying close and treating your existing clients well is really important. That's one. The second thing is having a runway. So whenever things are going well, you have money, so that for salaries, you put aside at least 6 months or something that you don't touch with anything else that you're doing, so that you don't have to lay people off suddenly when things don't go well. And then at the slow times, we have also decided to train to be more innovative. Like, we have a brand called Easy Office. It took us 1 year to formulate that brand, and we put some people aside, and all they were doing was working on the brand, so that when the time came, we were able to launch it. But it was a slow period when we were working on that brand. So tweaking the systems, marketing as well, of course. But sometimes when it's a slow season, it's a national thing. And then also being, I don't do very well at this, but it's something I know that should happen in terms of marketing, being visible, being out there. Because look at the story Michael told, right? So can you imagine hearing that Softcom wants to build a building and you're there trying to bid for the project? You're wasting your time, because he has built relationship a long time ago. So working on building relationship, even if it's through small projects or through presenting yourself in a certain way. One of the biggest projects I ever got, it was from a networking event. I sat beside someone, spoke very passionately about what I like to do. I wasn't trying to market, but 2 years later, they called me and said, there's a project. And it was one of those times when I was like, okay, what are we going to do? There's no work. And they called me to validate a decision they'd made. But by the time I left with the project.
Sure.
So everything she said is spot on. One other part, if you've worked in a company before, you know when it's difficult, even if the boss is pretending. Yeah. And it's worse when the boss is pretending things are not difficult, because at that point, that's when people start to okay, we need to start looking for a way out. So one, well, thankfully we've not had a lot of late, but when things are difficult, we're clear with the team. Things are a bit difficult, but then also we either start to learn together, maybe we start learning courses together, or we play together. There was a time if you walk into the office on a Monday morning, we play Monopoly. So at that point, you kind of have to, because all you can guarantee your people then is the culture is what's staying back for, the vision is what's staying back for. And so and this is especially for your staff, like internally, because beyond the money, that's what keeps them. You want an office where people want to come to work, even when it is difficult. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So we're having some people are joining us online. I'm not sure I mentioned that, but we have some questions from Abuja. So someone is asking. Let me see who I should ask the question. Let me ask you, Michael. What are some cost-effective systems or software that a starting designer should have or should be able to use? I'm not sure if it's design software or business software, but feel free to let us know. Yeah, if you were to recommend.
I've not been a designer for a while, but I think SketchUp still works. I think SketchUp works very well. So I'm really struggling here.
No problem. It doesn't have to be design. I also feel maybe business software.
Business software.
Yeah.
Okay, so just anything that automates your work. I mean, for example, I use AI a lot now.
Okay.
And I mean, it's a fee I pay every month for ChatGPT Pro. And so I have conversations with it every now and then. So I can go back to there and say, reference a conversation I had a while ago and do all the thinking for me. I come back with solutions. These days, most emails, because there's a way you write an email as a business. Now I just put everything. You know how I write, make it an email and do. So that's one way. That's one way to go. But then there are tools like Google tools. Like there are free tools you can use at a particular size. There's Slack. There's the paid version. There's a free version where I think after 3 months, your file you can't access files after 3 months. But on the day when you want to access it, pay for that month, get the files, and don't pay for the next month. This is recorded. It's not illegal. So there are ways to go about it. So you can be very frugal. There are free tools out there. I think there's a rendering tool now my team uses. I think D5. Yeah, there's a free tool. There's a paid version. So it's just there are different ways to make do. There are tools everywhere.
Thank you so much. I just want to also mention that sometimes we also overlook some of the free, things like Excel, for instance. You can use your Excel to do your invoices. You get it's just as simple as that. You don't have to pay anything. I mean, you're supposed to pay. You get what I'm trying to say? Yes. Your PowerPoint for your slides, your presentations to your clients. So yeah, just thought to also chip that in. And also, when you mentioned about websites, when I also started my business, I didn't have like my own domain, so I got a domain from Google. So I was using Google as it showed that my business.com, but it was actually Google. If I now got my own domain to host my own website. So there are ways that you can go about these things that you can just save money on. Just do some research or ask ChatGPT. Yeah.
Sorry on that. Yeah, I call him Uncle GPT. That's what I call. So it's my assistant. We spend a long time, like a lot of things. I just ask, but I put a lot of information in. You just treat it as if it's a human. The way you will delegate to a human being, give as much information as you can, so that the output is intelligent. You don't delegate your thinking to it, but the same way you will get a human being and tell them, especially something that requires logic. Tell them you need this, and then you will correct it like 200 times and be frustrated and do the work in the end yourself. That is ideal for Uncle GPT. That's what I call it. But so I wanted to say that I've forgotten what I was going to say because I started talking about domain. Get a domain name. It's not expensive. Like, you've got to do it. Don't be doing Google email, all those things. Sorry. Yeah. As a business, it's relatively inexpensive, I think in a year, $5, how much is that in Naira? 16,000 Naira in a year to own your domain name. Just to look professional. You can get a simple one-page website, but get a website. Get a website. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so speaking of AI, since we're already here, I had a question. So let me just ask Byron. So of course, with AI on the rise, and its growing influence. So how do you see interior design, or maybe interior design in Nigeria as a way? How do you see interior design evolving in the next few years? Just give us your take. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So I was going to add something to GPT. You know, I think maybe it's an African thing, but we're supposed to train it to think like us. Do you get? We're supposed to train it to think like us. Don't know, depend on it to give us. So you literally tell it things like, this is not how I talk. Talk like I talk, and this is what I think. This is how I think. And from then, it just takes it on continuously. You know, so it's supposed to be our guide or something. No, not necessarily. I mean, assistant in a way that sees you. So I mean, just take some time to train it and let it respond like you in a more intelligent way, in a more organized way. So that's for Uncle GPT. Now for interior design evolving, I see a lot of tools, you know, that come up. I mean, I've seen a couple of amazing things happen with interior design, you know, where people get to I can't remember, there's this tool I knew for doing like 3D interior design, very amazing tool. I can't remember the names now, but I've seen a lot of wonderful things where people can literally just go, even on your website, and they just need to type in what they think in their minds, and AI just develops it in form of, you know, like a real life, like a 3D stuff. So, I mean, getting to the point whereby people can literally just get interpretation of their thinking into an actual interior design. I think that's the future for interior design. When it has to do with also like the costing part of it, because it's a big challenge for people to, like you said, you know, because it's a service business, you know, the costing aspect of it can be a bit challenging. But I think it's all about how you package the things that you're selling to people. Don't make it seem easy. Like you spent 10 years, you spent 5 years studying, reading on how to get to how easy it is for you to execute this. Don't let them know that it's that easy, like now. Like, you get, so you have to bring your experience with you in form of packaging. And when I say packaging, it can mean pile up of documents for them to read and sign, even though it doesn't mean anything to you. Do you understand? You need to package yourself in a way. Yeah, because that's the truth. And I'll give you a very simple example, right? Some of the packages that we do, we build websites for people, right? But the reason why we charge, well, this is going to cost me a bit, but the reason why we charge millions to build a website is because we're going to get to the end result, but the process is different. You know, so the first thing we start with the scope documents. People have to sign professionally, you know, where we define the scope of the website. The next thing we do, we design an architecture, a site architecture, which is just strictly like flows of work, what the field is going to be like. This is just arrows and boom, this, literally, you know, and it's broken down for every single page that is supposed to be on the website. When people see that, they see you're putting the work, you know, to help them, to guide their thinking, to help them see what the field is going to be like before the actual. Then from there, we now do a mood board. You know, this is where people get it wrong with websites. You know, you think you can just start adjusting the website from the platform itself. You should do a mood board, let people be able to make their changes, you know. So by the time they see all these things, they will pay you. So you just need to take, you know, that's the advancement of interior design. Like, let's not do it the normal way. Let's not say, okay, we're creative, we just give them what we have. No. Let them go through the process that you used to actually spend in your private time to think through the entire process with you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, okay. 4 minutes. All right, thank you.
So another thing, so I used to tell people that when you ask a typical client, what does an architect provide? I'll say it's 5 sets of drawings, but the contractor does all the work. That's what an average client.
Online, and that's for Mrs. Okoye. She says it's one thing to acquire talent and it's another to retain talent. So, how do you address talent retention?
Well, after many years, I realized that I'm a school, that my primary business is teaching, not so that is tough. But I tell people when they come to work for me that that I believe that life is like a river, like a stream. And, a river that different streams converge, and at some point they begin to diverge because everybody has their own life and their own path. And so I expect you to stay with me as long as our paths or our visions converge. And as a result, I think a number of my people are transparent with me as to when they intend to leave because, they understand that it's not a do or die affair. And I have good relationship with them after. It takes typically, because I like to do factors of things, like over years I keep checking how long it's taken for this. It takes 3 years to train an interior designer. 3 years, I've checked it. So I've had some of my earlier people stayed, 5, 6, 7 years, yeah? But there's a lot that they're learning and they have opportunities as well because there's ownership. It's very tough. I mean, I'm typically really tough to work for because you have to do the work. I remember was NSIA when we did the project. I sent one of my people to go and do the negotiation with the CEO, and she called me from the bathroom crying. They are trying to get me to discount, and they're really being mean to me. And they're asking that we must do 20% discount, and I had given her authority for only like 3%, or 5%, and they were so insulted when I told them that it's 3%. I said, clean your eyes, don't worry, go back there, shine your eyes, don't answer them. So she, calmed down and she went back and we got the project. But you can imagine her level of confidence after that. So I think giving people ownership and sharing, I'm transparent with finances in the company. Every week, those that are up, we know how much we have. We know the project, we know what our goals are. So they are all part of building something great. And when they decide they don't want to, they're going to do something else, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Love that. Okay, so how much time do we have? Do you still have? Okay. Do you have any questions from the audience over here? Yes, please, let's just take a question or two. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't talk about culture. A strong culture is very important.
I actually have a question on culture.
Strong culture, I mean for retention. Strong culture, and then value, people feeling like they are valued. And then also a vision that they can, mission and vision that they can identify with. And of course, finally, which is important, but it's not as important as people think, is obviously you have to pay them well. You have to pay well, but there are people that have paid a lot, and not that I also wanted them to leave. So so the money and talents, they're not really the same, especially in specialized skill type of work like this. Some people come out, they will market, they package themselves. In fact, I recently said that it's like Nigerian Idol. When people are talking before they sing, when they sing, you're like, what's going on here? It's not the same thing. So even being careful on that. But anyway, thank you.
Sorry, can I add something? Just briefly. So, I remember thinking about this retention thing as a serious issue we have in Africa. But I also remember years ago, I worked with Dantata and Sawo. I don't know if you know it, but it's like a Julius Berger kind of company. But I think they're based mostly in the north, right? And while working there, I could see workers like that had stayed there for 25 years, that had stayed there for 30 years. And I always wondered, how are they able to retain these guys? And they're doing their work, they're happy, they're like family. And it got me thinking, and I realized something, right? You need to, as a leader, as a CEO, you need to actually care about what your colleagues care about. Their family, their way of life. You need to actually be involved. If you really, you want them to stay with you, you have to be involved in their personal lives. You have to find out what their problem is, what struggles are you having, or family issues. Yeah, and you support them. And you have to be genuine about it because they know when you're not. And they won't tell you something, like literally. So I always wondered how people were able to retain people in a large scale, of that manner. Even as little as having a staff boss that carries everybody together, it gives them that sense of family. Sometimes people will not leave you, not because of you, but because of the next colleague. You get? So I think having the family view to it, where you treat your brand, your company, your culture, like she said, like a family, I think that helps in the long run. I think in the long run, yeah.
Hello? Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I actually have questions for each of the speakers. Do I ask them at the same time or do I ask them one after the other? Moderator? At the same time? Okay, perfect. So, Mr. Byron, there's a popular saying, if you're in a hole, stop digging. I'm pretty sure some people are shy, but in terms of how they started the business, mistakes have been made. In your experience, consulting for companies, is there any business that is not salvageable in quotes? Do they have to pack up and leave, or do you believe everything can be salvaged? That's the first one. And then secondly, like I said, you're not in the interior design space, but I'm pretty sure based on statements that have been made here, you've been able to observe certain things about our field. Do you have any advice for us interior designers that you think we should take note of? That's your question. So basically, that's your question. For Mrs. Wakoye, thank you very much for that lovely presentation. So it's just a question, you and McD, that's Michael, you both went to Stanford. So is it that for us to be like successful business, must we, do you think it's something that is needed for all interior designers to understand how to run a business? Must we go to business school? Question mark. Then for Mr. Michael, it's quite interesting where in this age that AI is literally, changing things. You're doubling your staff strength, which is quite commendable. But you had mentioned you use ChatGPT a lot. That's personally or in terms of your workflow. But aside from, administrative tasks, you're saying things like generative AI for even design concepts and all. And that's where Mr. Byron even mentioned something about using a tool to design things. So I've been in situations where clients are literally saying, "Oh, I can use my AI to generate this." So what do you see is the future of our field with these tools that are emerging, and how do you think one can either navigate through it or catch along if you guys are incorporating it in your workflows already? So those are the three questions. Do I need to repeat them or you guys got everything? Perfect.
Thank you so much for the questions. Are there businesses that are not, did you say not viable? So I think in the first place, like Mrs. Wamaka mentioned, you need to know your why. Most times, in fact, when they were speaking about, or when she asked the question about, have there been times when your business is dry for a while? In my mind, I just kept saying, that's part of what makes you an entrepreneur. Like, you initially have to be ready for the dry times, like, because if you're not ready for it, you'll be so sad, you'll be so broken, you'll be so, that's part of the journey, you get. So, there's definitely points where you know you need to pack up, right? But then again, it still ties back to your why. So if you didn't have a strong why when you're starting something, then it's easy for you to pack up. You literally need to pack up because obviously you went in for the wrong reasons, right? But I think if your why is solid, you just need to stay there and keep looking for the next best way to get things done properly. There are so many ways to get things done. There's so many ways, just that most times we are so fixed on one way in our mind. This person is doing like it has to be this way. I'm going to Enugu, I can use flight, I can use bus, there's so many ways, literally. Especially when Enugu is clear. There's a land called Enugu. Do you get? So just, if your why is strong, I feel there's always a way out. And it's so funny that I was talking to someone about this a few days ago, about how even when investors invest in people, like in businesses, don't invest in ideas. You need to spend time with whatever you're investing in, the team you're investing in. Invest in their personality, their character, their drive towards the things that they love, not in the idea. Because the reason why businesses are closing down after they have raised $6-point-something million and everything, is simply because the investors invested in the idea. Because if a good, or let me not use the word good, because people are good, but a CEO that came into something because of that desire to make an impact, even if you invested $10 million in the person, if this idea doesn't work, it will bring us something else that will work. It's a continuous battle. We're not giving up. There's no giving up there. So when you invest in the person, their drive to life, the things that they're able to continue. First of all, honor your investment, then continue building regardless of what you are. So yeah, so that's that. Then advice for interior design. I've not started now. The journey is long. I say that a lot. Like, the journey is long. There's always more to learn. Just stay grounded, regardless of anything. Nigeria is a unique place. Africa is a unique space, and I think it's a very fertile land. There's so much more. You get? We're not even started. I mean, someone was saying, okay, you were saying about how traveled and you see a lot of. There's so much. Like, if you're well traveled, you see that there's so much that I've not even gone anywhere. So there's so much to do. Just don't ever feel like you've arrived. You get? Personally, I'm never satisfied. If I do some form of designs, or if I do some good thing today, very short celebration, go for the next thing. So just stay grounded. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Can I speak to that as well? Okay, a lot of people are running businesses that are not actually growing concerns. They are hobbies and they're not businesses, and they don't know. And they don't understand why, at the end of the day, they don't have enough. Maybe someone gives you something, it's 6 million, it's 10 million, it's 100 million, whatever it is, and you're excited. Then you finish the work, but there's nothing left, and you're wondering what happened. Business is a business. It's a discipline. There's accounting, there are different aspects of it, which if you don't mind those things, they will mess you up. That's the truth. Data doesn't lie. If you are doing a business, you have your cost, you have your margins, and you must know those things. If you don't know it and you don't put in certain costs like your overheads, you don't factor all that in, even your own salary, you might be running at a loss and you don't know. Someone has priced you down, you didn't realize. There's a young lady I was mentoring, and she didn't have money to pay her rent. She sews. She's a fashion designer. So I started asking her, how much does it cost you to make this? How much you pay in rent? How much you do that? And we realized that at the end of the day, she was making about 15,000 naira a month. But she didn't know. So we agreed you need to double or triple the cost, your pricing. And anybody who doesn't want to pay that, that's fine. It's not a business otherwise. And it will help you sieve out people that are not even your customers. So you need to understand the indices of your business. And so to answer your question, it is good to go to business school. So the other question, I'm going to come back to this first one. However, to get into the Stanford Seed Program, you needed to be successful. There was a minimum revenue of $300,000 to about $15 million, something like that. So you needed to actually have been successful to get in there. But I read a lot of business books, and I kept trying to figure stuff out and learning. I started a business. There's a particular product line I started. It was wardrobes and kitchens. After we did the office one, it was great. A year later, we said we're going to do the wardrobe one. So we spent a year developing the product, and then we launched it. Then we did it for 1 year. but I had my data. At the end of the year, even though we closed deals, we had done like 2 estates. But I realized, first of all, it took us almost a month to close the deal. Then we finished the work, and then the developers were never ready. So it took us forever to finish the job. And we've discounted a lot. And then the cost of installation was so much. The bottom line was that it wasn't profitable. And when I looked at the other line that we had, which was quicker turnaround time, better margins, I took the decision to shut down the other line. I told my people, please, I'm sorry, I know we spent a year, I put you down this line, but it's better we take the resources and focus it on this other one. But if we did not have the data, if we weren't keeping track, we would not have known and felt that because we are doing 36 houses, 100 houses, that it is profitable. It was not profitable because you talk about the time that is taken and you're paying salaries. Thank you. And you can pivot. Samsung used to sell clothes before, so I think fabric. So you look at within your business, what is the thing that is the big thing? So you can cut off the ones that are wasting your time and focus on that. Thank you.
So I think AI is a great tool. I think the extent to which AI can be a benefit to, let me just say, we don't have the infrastructure to really harness the benefits of AI in this part of the world, which is a blessing. Yeah, because the underlying infrastructure that AI should power does not exist. And I see that as that's a lot of opportunities that we can build up on. I know there's this fear, will AI take my job? I think AI is right now it's still very conceptual. You can tell AI to generate a beautiful room for you. Fine, do the working drawings, it'll be sure for you. No, not to, well. Okay, so, and there's also the part of you tell AI to do something and do it, okay, give me a room that looks like this, then change this. Other things will change because it still hasn't figured out how to, like say, stick to specifics. That's one aspect, and that's where we have strength in. But aside from that, the other thing we gain is AI they are trained on real world people. The luxury we have is we deal with real life people on a one-to-one basis. So our unique abilities, really, I discussed it with my design team recently, is taste. Because when you deal with this particular client, even if AI gives you recommendations, this person has their personal issues, which is why I think we can benefit from. So I think we should, right now, from a conceptual perspective, yes, AI is good. There are many tools that you can use to generate ideas and concepts and whatnot. But for now, I think that's the best we can do with it for now. When you start to bring it to the real world, AI cannot tell you the emotion this person is feeling. AI can't tell you that your client is upset right now. Do you understand? So there are benefits to it, but I won't overplay the impact of it for now.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I want to start rounding up, but there's one question from our online audience that I want to really ask because I think it's interesting. Michael, before I wrap up. So the person says that Michael talked about getting his very first project with Subcom. How did you position yourself for such a big client? They want to know. Please spill the tea.
Like I said, I didn't position myself. But what you have, you make do with what you have. Let's start from there. I'm a very spiritual person. You start with what is what's in your hand. So I used to be very good at renders. And I remember my first meeting with the Softcom client when he asked, what have you done before? I had done renders for Stanbic at BTC. So I showed him this is as far as I've gone, but I did this very well. So what people bet on people, but then they bet on diligence. They bet on character, like characteristics you can, let's say, intangibles, but also tangible. So my positioning was, I'm a diligent person. I can attend meetings. I can listen to your rants and what have you. So if it's in terms of, oh no, I said, it was there and then I was finding out about vendors. Because I was an architect, then a visualizer. It was I learned everything I learned during the project. So there was no positioning to get the job. That's for that particular project. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I like how real, you are. Sometimes these things are not, hard and fast. Sometimes you need to use your own, emotional intelligence to just know how to position yourself, and also be, be genuine about it, because that was what's, yeah. You want to chip in? Okay.
I really like how real you were with that response, because I think people downplay the part of being diligent, having some form of integrity, just staying around the barber shop so one day you get a cut, because the people think that you have to always do something extraordinary. No, I mean, sometimes you just stay, be who you are, be genuine, and it come to you eventually. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Pardon? Okay, I still have one more.
So I think also how you present yourself is very important. You never know who is watching. And so understand that every time you're with people and you're engaging, there's a transaction that's going on. And you should show only what is beneficial. Don't, as a professional, because you never know, that person might be the person to recommend you for another job. So you must impress. You must sound proficient. I mean, it's another thing, your game may not match your talk, but your talk should actually be good. Okay, when I did Tetra Pak West Africa, somebody that I spoke with recommended me to someone who was the HR manager, and they gave me a toilet to do first. And gave me a weekend to do it. And the Swedish MD did not believe we could achieve it. We did. And from there, jobs until we did their head office. But it was from a conversation with someone who never gave me work, but recommended me to someone, and there are many like that. So be careful how you present yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. So to wrap up, I'm going to ask you one question. So I just want everybody's answer or opinion on that one question. What advice, just very short, maybe a sentence or two, what advice will you give to someone starting their own creative business that wants to, kick off on the right foot, structure-wise and, profit-wise? Just short answers, starting with you, Michael. If somebody else wants to go first, then that's fine.
Industry experts go last now. Let me just quickly. But yeah, sorry, I think the first thing that came to my mind is don't just. I noticed a lot of creatives just learn the act of creating without a perspective. Like, you need to be able to see people's minds. Do you get, like, you need to be able to see people's minds. If not, you just say, can you do this? Yes, I can do it. You don't know what they're thinking, and you just take it around. So I think pay attention to whoever you're dealing with. There's a perspective to design as opposed to just doing design. Yeah.
So technically, like, have a sixth sense, as it were. Okay.
Whoever you're dealing with, and pay attention to how they are seeing what they're telling you about, as opposed to how you see it. Empathy, yeah, thank you. Very well.
Thank you so much. Okay, who wants to go next?
Yeah, I can go now. So this might sound very harsh, but if you're just starting, I don't think profit should be your focus. You want to get as many opportunities in the door early on. That should be your key focus. And focus on your users. Less about the space, more about the people. Business, business a business is a transaction between a human being and another human being. If you make that human being happy, it's simple. People like working with people that they trust, that they are happy with. So if you're just starting, your USP is that your first client is your only client. Let the clients be aware that you have their time and you're not that you're willing to do anything, but that you're available to do what's necessary when it needs to be done.
Thank you. All right.
I would say watch the presentation I gave. Thank you.
Got it, got it. Thank you so much. Please put your hands together for everybody. Thank you so much for this very interactive session. So I think we can go back to our seats now, please. Photo. Okay. Sorry, we're going to take a photograph. I'm sorry. Can I get some help with returning the chairs? Thank you. All right, so okay. So without much ado, we're going to the last learning session of today's event, and we'll be hearing from Mr. Byron Chukwudi. I've already read his bio, so please put your hands together as he comes up to take us on the workshop, Business Mapping and Organizational DNA. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I think it's afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay. So firstly, I want to say that it's a great privilege to be amongst amazing speakers, Mrs. Wanameka and Mr. Michael. I mean, I don't think this workshop is the first. I think I already had master classes already because I learned a lot. I mean, it's amazing. Thank you so much. So my name is Byron Chukwudi, managing partner at Arnold Company. So what do? We work across, Africa, helping businesses to to unlock growth, and to help them align strategy, structures, and cultures, which is more like what we call the organizational DNA, right? Because every organization needs a strategy, every organization needs a structure, and every organization needs a culture. So that's the DNA, and for those of us that followed the initial sessions that we had, you understand that a DNA is really what makes you unique. Mrs. Wanika said, someone saw her and the person was able to recognize based on her mom. So I think that's the same thing with companies. Like, your DNA makes you who you are. For a very clear understanding of what a DNA is, when it has to do with businesses, you can be doing this, can be in the same industry, selling the exact same thing, but have different outputs to it. Now, the ability to have a different outputs is what we call the DNA. What is your DNA? So today we're going to be talking about business mapping and organizational DNA. It's so funny that this is the background of this is actually a DNA. I didn't notice it. Someone just brought it out. But let's get into it. I don't have the. Okay. So I think I've done a brief introduction on what we do. I mean, as a company, we focus on strategy, research, analysis, management, technology and innovation, design and user experience. We build solutions that matter to organizations. And I say this a lot. Our goal is to be the #1 solutions firm for African businesses and institutions. Reason being that we have a very huge problem with proper management in Africa, and I believe that a lot of businesses are sincere, and it's only right for you to have that body that can help you ensure that you get to your goal. So that's our goal as a company. So why many businesses struggle to scale? And it's very easy, and most of my distinguished speakers that have spoken before have said it clearly. A very clear difference, misalignment between the vision and the internal structure. There's an idea of, if we're making money, let's keep making money. Let's forget about structure. We'll talk about it later. But the truth is, when it has to do with long-term, structure is important. You can be raking in so much money, you don't know who's stealing from you, you don't know where your money is going through. In fact, I heard something a few days ago, and someone was saying that if you check how much, even those that claim that they're poor, like if you literally calculate at the end of the year how much you've spent on yourself, you'll be shocked that you're probably a millionaire at the end of the year, like you didn't know. So structure is what makes you be attentive to your daily improvement, right? In today's complex environment, vision alone is not enough. Scalable growth requires a deliberate architecture where every function, role, and process is aligned to the organization's long-term direction. Why does this matter? Why does this matter? When an organization's structure, culture, and vision is misaligned, the consequences are far-reaching and often costly. That is why it's very important to understand your why, because I think one of the reasons people don't pay attention to structures is because they honestly didn't have a plan for long-term. And I still can't phantom. Yeah, I know VCs and all that, they talk about have an exit strategy, but I can't phantom why you're starting a business without a long-term vision and you have an exit strategy. But they've been able to say that it's necessary to do so you're not like stuck, but I believe businesses should have a long-term strategy. If you want to cause an impact, you should have a long-term strategy. It's not when you're finished solving a problem, then you go home and rest. You should go for the next thing. There's always something to work on. So talent becomes disengaged. So we're looking at why it matters, because talent becomes disengaged, employees operate without clarity, blah, blah, blah. Strategy fails to take roots, meaning that there's no strong foundation. This is why it's important for you to have a DNA. Culture becomes fragmented. Like anybody's just doing what they like. There's nothing that guides people to work as a brand. Then investment underperform. We can see that a lot now. I believe a lot of failure is because of lack of culture, lack of a DNA in an organization. Because your investments, the efforts you're putting in, nobody will see it in the end. It should just be like you're wasting time. Then leadership is overwhelmed. Micromanagement in businesses, it's not encouraged. We must be able to build leaders even in the midst of wanting to be a perfectionist as a leader, as a CEO. In fact, I was going to start this conversation by asking, I believe everyone here is a CEO, right? So how many of you have paid salaries for the month? Well, in that time of the month. I used to say something like, employees will never understand the challenges that leaders or CEOs go through. They can never understand it. They can only gossip about it in the office. but they can't understand why leaders are making certain decisions. And that's just the truth, because the leader sees differently, carries the vision differently, carries a lot of burdens, they can never understand it. I don't know. Like, I know some people here are going to pay 50 million this month alone on salaries. And an employee is saying, oh, they didn't pay me this. Oh, I want a raise. The leader is thinking about everything. So it's not easy, but thank God. What is business mapping? What is business mapping? Yeah. So business mapping is the process of visually and structurally organizing the key elements of an organization: the strategy, the systems, the people, the processes. When we started our organization, we called it the 3 Ps: people, processes, perspectives. Every business has these 3. There are actually 4 of them, right? The 4th one is profits. But because we're not a finance firm per se, so we just put that aside for now. But the 3 Ps every organization needs those people. Every organization needs people, every organization needs processes, and every organization needs a perspective, internally, externally. So for us, the interpretation of a perspective is branding. You must brand yourself internally and externally. Now, why is it important for you to map your business? Because it gives clarity to the current state of things. What exactly are we going through at this moment? If you're able to map, and that is why, the need of a business plan is undermined nowadays because people think you can go online and get it. But truly and truly, a true business plan, you shouldn't go online and get it. You should actually sit down with yourself and know, okay, where do I want to go? What is our journey going to look like? And plan your business plan properly. So that's more like what we call the mapping, business mapping. Then the next thing is design a future state that reflect the vision, the growth, goals, and competitive positions. Again, our distinguished speakers, they had mentioned, that gets to a level whereby you don't take certain jobs again, not because you are proud, but because you are going somewhere. I can't imagine you hoping to be, as a service business, you're hoping to be a billionaire, or let's just say a millionaire in dollars, based on what you're doing currently, and you're still collecting 100K jobs. Or I don't know. Like, there's a huge shift. And I think it happens for even 1 million. For you to pitch your first 1 million, your mind needs to change, especially if you've collected hundreds of thousands all this while. Your first 1 million, your first 10 million, there has to be a consistent shift in your mind. So if you have a dream here as an interior designer to design places that will give you billions of dollars, trust me, your mind has to shift. Sometimes you can even stay 1 year without a job just to shift your mind, and it will come to you, for real. The next thing is to bridge the gap by aligning every layer of the business, from the leadership and the culture to the operations and the workflows. I've not really looked into what exactly the workflows of, I have an idea because I've been on some projects, but the exact workflows of interior designing is, but you have to figure it out. And I think Mrs. Wanamaker, she gave us an idea, even though it wasn't clear, but she showed us what their workflow is like. Like, you literally have to do that's the hard work, to be honest, because it's not easy to design those things, but you have to do it. You have to know exactly how your approach to doing business is going to be like, because that is what they call your DNA. That is your DNA. You have to create your own, Now, when it's done right, business mapping becomes a diagnostic tool, a design tool, and a growth engine. Please take note of those words. What does it mean to diagnose something? It means to look inwards. Do you get? And that's the major purpose of a business plan. So the goal of a business plan is not for immediate need, it's for long term. When you create a business plan, it's supposed to guide you. You're supposed to go back to it after every year. Are we on the right path that we designed from the scratch? So that's what is meant by diagnostic tool. Now, the design tool aspect of it has to do with the creative aspect of interior designing, and like I said before, especially in Africa, because I've worked with a lot of designers, and I'm not even talking interior designers, I'm talking graphic designers, and I realized that A lot of them know how to design. A lot of them do not have the perspective to design, whereby you see things the way other people are seeing it. It takes empathy, for you to go into the same shoes as someone is, look into their experiences, then be able to interpret what they're trying to make you, do for them. Then the last one is growth engine. I think growth is very important, and it's very important to track growth. It's good to know when you've gotten from 0.1 to 0.2, no matter how small it is. So it ensures that every part of the business is working together, not against itself. Now, what is organizational DNA? I think I've said a bit about this, but it refers to the unique combination of elements that define a company, how a company behaves, makes decisions, and executes the strategy. So I assume that many CEOs here are kind of one man in some form, maybe one-man business and all that. And let me tell you how you can structure your business in a way that you just create systems. And when I say systems, it doesn't have to be something major. It doesn't have to be some technology or whatever. It could just be documentation form. Like you can design it from, onboarding form, for instance. How do I want to interact with my clients? So if I give them this form, what's the process on the form that they can fill? That just gives me all the information that I need about them. Down to hiring, for instance, what kind of people do I want to hire? What are the benchmarks that I'm looking at in terms of hiring the kind of people that I need? So you don't have to do some technology or some form of complicated thing to know exactly what your DNA is. You just need to, you can just do everything in documentation form for now. Then along the line, you can start putting into technology and all that. So culture is very important. And I remember whose culture was this? I think it was Netflix, where I think they have a culture of when you have a dispute with your fellow colleague, you can never go to the person's back and talk at the person's back. Like, you guys must trash it. That's a very beautiful culture. So there's no fighting in the company. There's nothing. Like, if you have an issue with someone, you deal with it immediately. So the question is, so what will be your own culture? What exactly do you want people to see? Even when they're not looking inside the side. Anywhere I see a staff of honor, what do I expect? Do I see it? Even down to your gateman. Like, what do your gatemen represent about your company? So that's what helps the culture, because the culture is very important. And I say this continuously because I've even worked with top big organizations that you see how beautiful their buildings are, but there's no structure inside. They're just raking in money. There's no single structure. But when you see it from outside, you think everything is going well. But when you go in, there's no structure. You're asking for this. There's nobody to give. They're calling someone that has gone somewhere. It's the reality of things. So what is exactly your culture? Even you're talking to their gateman is gossiping about them to you. So you need to know your culture. Culture is very critical. Everybody needs to understand your culture, down to your gatemen, your cleaners. I can meet your cleaner somewhere and I'll ask the person, okay, what do you guys do? And the person is able to give me details of what you do. So the execution behavior, this is very key. And I think this is where most consultants, if you're worked in most of the consultancy firms, McKinsey and co., this is where they win. I think in consulting, they call it approach. Your approach to execution is very, very key. How do you execute? For us, we usually take people through a journey, our clients through a journey, that makes them feel so special, makes them feel heard. We submit documents that make them feel safe, because people need to be safe when they're giving you their money. The leadership style. So for me, the best leadership style is still empathy, relationship with your fellow staff, understanding them, knowing them, not just because of what they're doing for you, but trying to know what their challenges are. If you don't know people's challenges, you just wonder why they're doing things in certain ways. You just wonder why they're showing up today in a certain way, tomorrow they're showing up in that way, because you're not paying attention to what means a lot to them. And most times it's family. Trust me. Most times when people misbehave in workplace, it's family. It has a lot to do with what's going on back end. And most of them won't talk to you, especially if you have a bad mouth as a CEO. So CEOs, please be kind, yeah? Then decision logic. I think Ms. Wanika spoke about it. You must be able to make good decisions, good judgment, and it's very critical as a company. Then let me move fast. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Always, always, always. If you don't have a culture, it's an issue. Like I said, it's a DNA. Your brand must have a DNA. You can be doing the same thing, but have different approaches to it. Now, the 4 core elements of organizational DNA: strategy, structure, culture, and processes. These are very key. I think I've spoken about them already. Now, what are the 5 core pillars of a high-performing business DNA? The first one is clear vision and purpose. Under that, you have clarity, definition, direction, building momentum, alignment across the business. I'll repeat that. Clarity, definition, direction, building momentum, alignment across the business. Then the second one is aligned structure. Enable scale, efficient decision making, avoids internal friction. That's what a structure does. The next one is smart systems. Technology, operational systems, support workflows and outcomes, then maintaining visibility. Then the next one is talent and culture. It drives performance, it motivates the team, delivers results. Then the last one is measurable results. Data to make better decisions, optimize operations, and stay accountable. But I'll speak about, if you've done project management here, there's something called lessons learned. We don't practice that a lot in this part of the world, where we're always looking forward to the feedback of the people that have done things with. We want to learn, not just because we want to hear what they're saying, but also to know exactly where we can be better. That's really the main purpose of lessons learned. It's very important for you to measure your results. One way of measuring it is by having a lessons learned section. Usually, you can reach out to your clients after your project or whatever and ask them, okay, what can we, do you have any feedbacks? We want to learn, want to know how to serve you better. Be intentional about it, because they know. And many times, for the clients that are not happy with you, they will answer you. They will answer your mail. You can send them a mail, because it has happened to us before. So it's not like we didn't perform. We performed, but I don't know who someone spoke about being insulted to people's staff. So they were rude and everything, But I still told my staff that let's just send that email. So we send the email. They didn't answer us, but that's fine. So sometimes, but so yeah. So it's also good to be ignored. That's part of being an entrepreneur, but you keep going. I just saw the person randomly one day and I said, hello, how are you? I will not do business together. She just said, okay, yeah. So I think I should talk about that briefly. Don't be annoyed. Don't be annoyed. People will push you to the wall. You're like a servant. You're like a steward as an entrepreneur. Don't put your emotions to what people say to you. You need to actually have a tough skin to take nonsense. But at the same time, you set your boundaries. Because I've seen people you're serving someone and they literally, if not, then you're my client. But the truth is, we know you can beat them normally, but just ignore, take the money, do the work, and just move on. Some people are difficult, whether I like it or not, but that's for that. Now, common gaps here. So the typical gaps in the creative and the growth stage businesses, I'll just go straight to it so I don't bore you guys with that. Vision, structure, misalignment, which I've already spoken about. The business has to have a compelling vision, but it lacks the internal structure and the operational discipline to deliver on it. I think that's one. Then informal processes. Many growth stage businesses rely on informal, undocumented processes. It's never late to start documenting, even if you've done business for years without documenting. Start now. And I think with the new tax reform, you'll be forced to do it by force. But just start now. It's never late, no matter how long you've been doing business without documenting. Just start. Then undefined roles and decision bottlenecks. Speaking about defined roles, it's okay to have a small team. It's very okay to have a small team. In fact, many a times, especially for these startups that have raised a lot of money and they're closing down, realize that one of the major reasons why they closed down is because they hired the people they didn't need. You will see a startup, they are buying brand new Microsoft Surface, brand new Apple laptops for all their staffs. Like literally, even Shell and all these multinationals, they use, do you understand? Why are we doing that? And the investors will be surprised that they close down. So you need to hire those that you need. Sometimes you don't need a lot of people. So I'll give a for instance, interior design. I think the major thing, you need creatives, you need a marketing team, and I think you need a salesperson that interacts with the people that come to inquire about what you do. Right? So that salesperson interacting with the marketing team, and the marketing team is pushing you out there. The salesperson is ready to receive whoever is coming and selling your business properly. So those are the key core teams to me for now. Then maybe in terms of partnerships, speaking about partnerships, it's also good to partner with people. Now, reactive strategy. Instead of working toward a large form plan, the business reacts to daily urgencies. This leads to inconsistently branding, diluting customer experience, and lost strategic opportunity. This is when, especially when you're a single person running a business, and you're doing everything at the same time. Sometimes it's okay to partner. You have friends that literally will happily do your finances for you without you paying them. But you don't know, either for trust issues or you've not tried that angle. Like you have people around you that will help you do things without you knowing. You don't have to do everything yourself. And one thing my friend used to say to me, when he used to tell me, Oga, go and marry you, because you are a mental person, because for consulting, you use more of your brains now, right? You need to marry a peaceful woman. So that's when I realized that there's actually a difference between people that work mostly mentally and people that work mostly physically, right? So for an interior designer, I think your work is more mental. And it's very important for you to find time to be creative. You need to find time. You can't be distracted all the time. You need to find time to actually see, beyond what is around you. Now, culture not embedded. Of course, we're talking about this. The values are written, but not lived, which is a big problem. I think that says a lot. When you have a vision, you have tied it to a culture, you must live the culture. Then poor data visibility. I think it's very, very, again, Ms. Wanmaker has said, data is everything. You need to understand data of where you are and use it to make the right decisions. So I'll give a case study. I think I already given one before. So this company called Interior Co. Firm, they were trying to move from chaos to clarity, right? It's a mid-sized, 12-person luxury interior design studio based in Lagos. Interior design and lifestyle. What was their challenge? The founder was juggling too many roles at the same time, which I just spoke about. There were no defined departments, and the team kept overlapping in responsibilities, leading to delivery delays, burnout, and poor client communication. Growth had stalled. I don't know who said that. I think it was Michael. Were you the one that said that you forget your invoices? It's real. It's real as a creative person. You're spending time creating. You're not thinking about, you just want to be creative. Literally, this is an example of that. So how do we intervene in such things? We applied our business mapping framework and conducted an organizational DNA audit. Our process included, first of all, functional role mapping. This is define clear roles. Don't forget, there are currently people in the office already. So define their roles and responsibilities based on the founder's vision. Based on the founder's vision, define their roles. Now, for a service business, it's going to be different from a product business. If you're going to define roles, for a product business, you might put, after the CEO, you might put, for a product business, you might put marketing next, or you can put production next, then marketing. But for a service business, you might need, after you've done your own service part, you might need an IT person, you might need an accountant before you now get to, so it's a different structure for a service business than a product business. So according to the founder's vision, you have to be clear about the roles and the responsibilities. Now the next is operational blueprint. Build a lean structure with 4 mini departments: design, project, admin, marketing. I think I already spoke about this. So what does the design person do? The person thinks, the person designs, the person creates. The head of projects manages the projects that are available, to make it easy. Then the admin, of course, communicates with outsiders, clients, people that want to know more about the business. Then the marketing team, they just have one job: put you out there. So this 4 team is literally, as a CEO here, interior design, this is literally what you might need to start. It's not much. Just 4 people. You yourself, person handling the project, managing the project. And this project person, you might not even need the person immediately until maybe you have like 5 or 10 projects, on ground, and you need to manage them. Then the admin and the marketing. Then the next thing that was done was process optimization. Created workflows for client onboarding, which is very important. This is also a DNA. Like I tell people, the experience you give your clients is more important than the end result. The experience is more important than the end result. If I come to you and I want to do a design for my office, how you talk to me, the time you spend, sometimes it's even time. I know some people come and they say, no, please just give me the price. Please don't answer them more. Like if they just tell you, please just give me the price, I don't want to hear, don't answer them. The moment you answer them, you're giving them room to let them know that there's a process. It is very, very important. And if they're still, just send them documents. I'll send you some documents you look at. It's very, very important. So create workflows, client onboarding, design approvals, and procurement. Then the last one is cultural anchoring, which I've spoken about, value sessions and feedback. Now, what was the transformation? 25 increase in delivery speed within 2 months. I don't know. Maybe you help. What is speed like in terms of delivery in interior design space? Is it necessary for it to be delivered fast? I know construction projects take time sometimes. When you deliver, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because I know that there are a couple of times that the idea of this person can deliver on time or within a short time is what attracts some clients to people. Do you get? Yeah, so they know that you can take pressure. So yeah. So the next thing was team satisfaction, roles through structured roles, and clearer communication. Founder moved from daily firefighting to visionary leadership. And that's another thing. As a founder, if you're under pressure, you can't think, like you can't see the vision. It's the first vision you had you'll be working with. Meanwhile, visions are supposed to evolve per time. And that's why a lot of people struggle. I've worked with a couple of traditional companies. You don't want to work with them because you won't understand why they don't understand what you're saying to them. Like, you can't just understand. They're so stuck on the first vision. Do you get? And there's a clear difference between traditional companies and traditional companies are unique, especially in Africa, especially in Nigeria. But I hope this doesn't put me inside trouble. But you must understand them. They want it their way, regardless of your innovation. You still come back. You have to be patient with them and everything. So it's very important for you to create time to think and be visionary as a leader. Then enable the business to pitch and win through major real estate projects. So I think that's a good win. Then the second case study, this was a consulting firm, a growing African advisory firm with operations in Nigeria and Ghana. Business and public sector consulting. What was the challenge? Despite strong individual consultants, The firm had no unified strategy. There were duplications in service delivery, lack of internal collaboration, and clients were receiving inconsistent experiences. For those in the consulting space, you understand this very well, especially if you're partnering with people. There's a lot of partnership in consulting, right? And because partners, everyone is a big man. As a partner, I'm a partner, I have my own idea. As a partner, you have your own idea. Everyone is a big man. So the chances of you having different visions is very high. So that's why I don't really encourage a lot of so many people in leadership in terms of people that actually make the decisions. So many. Like now, you're building a company and you have five founders, co-founders. I don't really encourage it because someone can wake up one day thinking about something else. If you don't agree, that's a problem. So just keep it to like two major decision makers or three max, just to move yourself from this situation. So how do we intervene? We deployed our organizational alignment protocol, which included strategic reposition, right? We visited the company's mission, value proposition, and market positioning. Clarity road mapping, define quarterly goals, and assign key results areas across teams. Then the third one, brand DNA codification, created internal brand culture documents that unified how the team worked and communicated. Training and implementation, held boot camps on execution, discipline, and internal accountability. Sometimes someone give an analogy. This applies to work, but I think we'll relate a lot here because most of us have maybe maids or people working with us at home, and there's a way you expect them to think like you, to do things like you do them. And someone said something. He said, you have gone to Stanford, right? You have gone to Dubai, you have gone to everywhere. Then you now come back to your house and expect your maid to think like you. How? Your maid has not gone anywhere. Do you get? So the best way for you to do that is like that empathy, like build that relationship with them. The same thing applies to your staff. Like you're a CEO, you've been opportune to see things differently. You've been opportune to sit down in the room with top people. You've heard big amounts, but your staff has not. So why not be patient with them, build a relationship with them that makes them feel like you trust them. And especially that also helps them to even make the right decisions for you. So the transformation of this business was able to get them, 40% improvement in client retention within 6 months, doubled cross-team collaboration and internal referrals, built a reputable system to launch projects with consistency, and position the firm to compete at global standard levels, winning a $500K project in Kenya. But let me say something there. I'll say this again. If you ever dream to make this kind of amount, you can't even think like someone that is making, this is dollars, but you can't think as someone that is making 100 million. There's a serious shift of the way you do things, or the way you think about things. Like, why will I drop $500K with you to design my house? People are making that money actually. People are actually paying that much for people to just do like interior designs. I know some people here don't ever believe that they can be paid $100K to do an interior design, but it's possible. It all boils down to your DNA and how you present yourself. So I think at this junction that we'll get into some form of workshop. I'm sure by now materials have been shared around, and the purpose of this is to shift the way we see our business, first off, by looking inwards, right? For you to look inward, I think is very important. Some people here, some of these things on this workshop sheet, you've never seen it before, you've never thought about it before. This will be your first time. But I advise that it's very important that you pay attention and be sincere with yourself. These sheets, we're not taking it back. So it's for you alone. Tell yourself the truth. So the first sheet it's called the Quick Audit Organizational DNA Snapshot. So first things first, write your company name on top of it, so you know it's a company you're talking about. All right, so are we all together? Are we together? CEOs, don't be afraid. You're about to be exposed. So first of all, based on your vision and your mission, as of today, what exists? What are you doing today? Please. See, you're supposed to write that down because I have just 10 minutes, so I'll probably rush through it. But I hope you can answer genuinely as we go as fast as possible. What do you have today based on your vision and your mission? Then what should be true? Meaning that what, based on your initial plan, like what are you supposed to be doing instead? So this is reality. This is your vision, the dream you had when you started. So we'll go to the next one. No, we'll just leave the ticking for now. The structure and departments. What structures what do you have today? Do you have any structure today? Then on the other side, what kind of structure do you want to have? What kind of structure do you think you have? The same thing with the core processes. So with the business you do, what kind of processes do you currently have? And what do you hope to have? The same thing with your team roles. Do you have team roles? Do you have clarity? Does your team understand? As of today, do you have roles? Do you understand? Do you have clarity of what you're doing? What would you like to see? Then decision making and culture. What culture do you have? Do you have any culture? What exactly is your DNA as of today? If you're being honest with yourself, are you the same person that is collecting the finance, that is also doing the marketing online, at the same time meeting investors and meeting clients face to face? Is that what you're currently experiencing? Then what were you hoping to be? Just be as sincere as possible. Then, so that's for the first sheet. Please take your time. You don't have much time, but just take your time to answer it and to fill it. Then the next sheet is a business mapping canvas, right? I didn't speak much about partnership, but partnerships are key. It's not everything you need to do by yourself. Sometimes you have the people you need around you. You just don't feel like they'll be able to do it as well as you want them to do it. But the first things first is, who are your key partners? For an interior design firm, because it has a lot to do with creativity and project management, I think it's okay to partner for marketing. I think it's also okay to partner for little things like, for instance, your 3D designs. Like when you want to design a space, sometimes you guys do like 3D design first of the space and everything. It's okay. You don't have to employ that person. Like sometimes it's okay to outsource it, so you can focus on your own main part. So who are your key partners? What key activities do you do on a daily basis as an interior designer? What key activities do you do on a daily basis? What key resources do you have access to? So the goal is for you to feel this, like even if you don't have it, the answer and the problem and the solution is supposed to be there. Like you write the problem, you write the solution. So if you don't have key resources, if you've not read any book as an interior designer in the past 5 years, you need to notice that you've not read the book, then you're not, okay, what books do I need to read? You need to write it there. Prepositions, customer relationships, channels, customer segments, revenue models. I think that's very key. What revenue models do you have? I don't think I heard, but I don't know. Do you guys speak about revenue models for interior design? I don't know. But do you want to suggest? Do you want to suggest any, just in case? Varies, yeah? So you can come from furniture alone. Like revenue can come from furniture, can come from consulting, manufacturing, construction, there's retailing, okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, manufacturing. Yes, yeah. Consulting,
Yeah, and then retailing, which is say
Retailing.
sourcing, and then you mark it up. But
yes.
there's even that also, there's revenue in that, saying this is how much it costs, but you have to pay me this extra because I sourced for you.
Okay, so you okay.
Different from retailing, where you're
Procurement.
buying and you're marking
Procurement.
up. Procurement, that's
Okay,
it, procurement.
okay.
Procurement, but it's not really, sourcing is a little different from procurement, even though procurement is part of it.
Part of it, okay.
But you're required to use your design sense to also
Okay.
decide. Then there's also delivery and transportation.
Yes,
another
true,
revenue.
true. Delivery and
Then
what about
supervision.
professional fees.
Yeah, that's what it's consulting. That's
Okay,
professional.
consulting,
fees.
yeah, true. Okay.
Yes.
I was mixing consulting with advisory.
That's
You-
the professional fees.
Like professional fees on the project is different from advisory when you're invited to just give.
Yes. So
Okay.
there's supervision and there's
Okay.
design. So
Okay.
you
Okay.
charge for the design. You also charge for supervision if you supervise the project.
Okay.
In
okay,
addition to the profit and attendance for the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. I hope everyone heard that. So please just note that down. Then your course culture. I mean, if you want to learn about course culture, our distinguished, So let's go to the next sheet. Please always write your name of the company so you can know that you're talking about your company and not another company. Yep. Channels. So channels for selling your business. Yeah, where you want to sell your business, the platforms, there's so many platforms. There are even websites that handle anything real estate, that publicize you and everything. I think there's Digest or something. Is it Digest? I know there's so many channels to publicize your interior design. There's even what's this Nigerian one? There's Newcastle, there's Castle, but there's one other one that is quite popular. I can't remember it. It's quite popular. Does anyone know it? Yeah, the Nigerian one, where they like put new projects that they are doing currently. I don't know, but I'll remember it and I'll speak about it. So the last slide is a gap analysis template. These are those honest questions to yourself. What are you focused on right now? I mean, you have these sections which are very compulsory in every business: the brand position, the people, systems, and processes. So these are the areas you have to focus on. So where would you like to be? Desired future scale. Where would you like to be in your brand positioning? Where would you like to be in your people, in your staff strength? Where would you like to be in the systems that you have that help you manage your business and the processes? Where are you now? It's almost similar to the initial questions, So, but this one is divided into specific segments that every company needs. So where are you now? You need to write that and fill it up. Then the difference between desired state and current state, which is the middle ground, which is the same thing as where you are currently. Identify the gap. What are the challenges? Why am I not where I need to be? You need to figure that out and write it down. You have to fill it up there. Why? Be honest with yourself. Is it finance? Is it because of pride? Is it because I'm not willing to be open-minded to new technologies and everything? Be as sincere as possible. Then let's try something practical. Let's change the behavioral patterns in that difference and look forward to quick wins within 30 and 60 days. Because you don't want to come to a very impactful event like this and go back, even after you've done these exercises, repeating the same mistakes. Change can start now. You don't need to procrastinate it. You can literally start now. And because we are pushing for the better engagement, especially when it has to do with interior design. We want interior design businesses to do better, to know that they can actually achieve more, to know that they have a space out there to be able to express and also make the impact that they need to make, and make the money, because I think people don't like to talk about the money. People need to be able to scale financially, you know. And I've spoken about packaging yourself. You know, you need to package yourself. You learned this, it took you time to learn this. Don't show people that it's that easy because of where you are now. Do you understand? You are in your expert period, but people have not seen where you're coming from. But you are showing them your past, like how easy it was. It's not easy. So put that experience in documentation, in the process, in the experience you give your clients. Let them know that you've come a long way. Don't give them easy answers. Oh, how did you do this? You will not start talking, oh, I did this. No, don't do that. You want to know how I did it. Okay, refund me my master's money. You know, you charge accordingly. And the idea of, I know you said something about exposure gives you experience. I know people use that to manipulate people a lot. Don't worry, it's going to give you exposure. It's going to give you exposure. The reason why you met me is because I'm exposed. No? Do you understand? The reason why you heard about me is because I'm exposed. So we have to gauge it. We have to gauge what kind of exposure do you need and where do you need to charge. And one fear that many of us have is the ability to charge big money. Please charge it. Don't think too much about it. Thank you so much. So finally, how do we apply this internally? Hold a leadership alignment session. When you go back with your team, even if it's just you for now, you and yourself, hold that session. If it's 2 people, sit down with the person. Okay, how do we move forward? The world is moving fast, even though Africa is moving slow, but Africa is still moving, whether I like it or not. Africa is moving. So don't assume that because we're in the past, when it has to do with evolution in terms of innovation, we're still coming slow. Don't mean that people are moving. What you used to pay last 2 years for 3D design is not the same thing you're paying now. Things have changed. So you have to consistently move, align with your leadership, with your top team members. You guys should talk about this. How do we move forward? We can't continue being the same way we are. Then the next thing is run a mini business mapping exercise, which will something that I've already shared now. You know, the previous worksheet that you had. You know, start with one department or process and walk through your strategy, structure, people, and process alignment. It's a gradual process. So you don't need to employ a lot of people immediately. Just start from where you are. Then create a 1-pager DNA. We've already done something like that now, but you have to consistently create that DNA to check yourself. So for those of you that don't fill yours, maybe we'll have a way to send to people so you can always print it out after some time. Check yourself, write this, be sincere with your business. You know, document your vision, your structure, systems, and culture as they are, and as they should be. Assign a cross-functional team. Choose internal champions to lead improvement efforts across the department. Trusted people. If you have a big team, if you have several departments, the people you trust with leadership, not the people you trust with skill. The people you trust with leadership is that the people that should lead your department, not people you trust with skill. You know, then set a 30-day action plan. I mean, they say that 30 days, if you do something for 30 days, you master it. I think that's why 30 days is usually the benchmark. But it's been a good time speaking with you guys, and I'm hoping that by the next time you get an opportunity to speak or to be in this environment, every single one of you here will have a different story to tell. Every single one of you here will have improved from where we are right now because you're kicking off the 30 days challenge today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. My name is Byron Chikudi.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's yours. Wow, thank you so much. I just love how the session ended with to-dos because that's literally what it's all about. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and, of course, your resources with us at this event. How many of you feel like this has been very, very enlightening? Cast your hands up. Okay. How many of you feel like this is going to change something in your approach to business? Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I mean, I just want to give kudos once again. He doesn't like to be on the spotlight, but I want to give kudos again to Abiodun, our chair, for selecting the speakers. It's just been super refreshing. Thank you all so much. And of course, very big thank you once again to our speakers. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for everything. Please put your hands together once again for all of them. All of them. Thank you. All right. So we are nearing the end of the event, thankfully. So we are supposed to have closing remarks by the president of Idan. By the way, how many of you know that it's called Idan, not Idan? So that's just a joke, but yeah, so it's Idan. Our president, who is unavoidably absent, but she'll be represented by our Secretary General. So please put your hands together for Mrs. Teresa Ephraim as she comes to give the closing remarks and also share what next. What next? Please continue putting your hands together for us. She's our project chair. Yes, I know I've been giving the credit to Abiodun, but Tessie has also been. Thank you so much.
Hey, what a session. Thank you. Thank you. It's really, truly refreshing to hear such deep wisdom come from each and every one of you that spoke here. And I'm sure all our businesses would feel it. I can trust how Monday morning meeting would be. I'm already figuring it out. Thank you, everyone, for making out time to build your business, to get more knowledge, to get more, equipped to build something truly meaningful and something you would be proud of, and something that, would transcend just not you, and why you even started, the purpose you even started all of this. I'm here to give a message from the president, who is unavoidably absent. She's not in the country at the moment, but I have her speak with us. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It means so much to see this gathering take shape today. Even though I'm not with you physically, please know that I am fully present in spirit and in purpose. This is the first of our CEO Roundtable of the year, but it's also my very first formal address to the entrepreneurs and firm leaders who make up such a vital part of interior design ecosystem. I don't take this lightly. Since my investiture, we've spent the last few months listening intently and deliberately. We've sat with professionals, decorators, students, educators, industry partners, and one thing came truly clearly across the board: the gap in education. This gap shows up in different ways, whether it's the lack of technical grounding, unclear practice pathways, which we can all tell from all our speakers, or the absence of consistent systems in how we run and grow our firms. But the impact is the same. It limits how far we can take our creativity and how strongly we can hold our ground as a profession. This CEO Roundtable, and the entire series. Now, this is the first series we have, so you want to be looking out for series 2, series 3. But this is our first series. And that is part of how we begin to change. We are focusing on systems and structures this year because we know that passion alone is not enough. We need tools, we need frameworks, we need shared knowledge, and that helps us not only to do better work, but build businesses that are sustainable and future ready. I want to thank all the speakers and the facilitators, and who have committed to this process. And I want to thank you, everyone in this room, for showing up with curiosity, honesty, and ambition. We are building something deeper together, one conversation, one room, one challenge at a time. With gratitude, Jacqueline Aki, President Idan. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. And we want to thank again our chair, the education chair, Architect Abiodun. He truly, Shonibare, that has made it. So much work went into making sure that this day happened, and the quality of things we're hearing, the people we are hearing from, and I'm happy that you also showed up. So thank you to everyone, and I hope we kept to time.
Thank you so much, Tessie. Another round of applause for her, please. Just quickly mention that in the packs that we've been giving, there's some light snacks. So once we are done, please feel free to dive in. And yeah, as we are also rounding up, once we, disperse, please don't, hang around to meet people, network, and of course, take photos so that you can remember the moments. Please, just to mention, I am the chair of membership, so please, if anybody is not yet, because we open this to everybody, you see, we didn't restrict it. So if you are not yet an IDA member, having listened to that speech from our president, I hope, and of course, having even experienced what you just experienced, I hope you will now become a full IDA member so that you can fully harness all of the benefits of becoming one. So just thought to chip that in very quickly. Thank you all so very much. Thank you for being an amazing audience. Thank you for laughing at my very dry jokes. Thank you for just indulging me. Okay, sorry, we have a presentation for our speakers. Sorry, just very quickly. Okay. Thank you.
So thank you very much, our delectable speakers. We just have some little token for you to say to appreciate you.
Okay. Thank you. I love how they are color coded. All right. Thank you all. Thank you all, everybody.